Hello, I'm Nash Novinsky and you're watching Morning World Today here on TVP World. Rise and shine. We've got things to do, places to see and stories to explore. And as always, we're going to be examining the headlines in a moment with Sasha Faber. But first, let's take a look at the most important events which took place during the last 24 hours.
Wildfires, aggravated by record-high temperatures, rage around the Mediterranean. From southern Europe to North Africa, the blaze has caused mass evacuations in Greece and fatalities in Algeria. The state of Texas has set up a border on the Rio Grande River to deter migrants from crossing the U.S. border with Mexico. In response, the Department of Justice sued the state, as they claim it violates federal laws. Qin Gang has been ousted from the post of China's foreign minister, with no explanation from the authorities. He had been considered a rising star in China's political establishment, but hasn't appeared in public for over a month. His predecessor, Wang Yi, has now replaced him. Saudi Arabian club Al Hilal offers Paris Saint-Germain €300 million to buy Kylian Mbappe out of his contract. The fabulous offer breaks the record for the highest bid in the history of professional football. President Emmanuel Macron makes a rare trip to New Caledonia, a remote French territory in the Pacific Ocean. The landmark visit comes as France looks to expand its influence in the region to counter growing tensions between China and the United States.
And now we're going to be rampaging through the headlines with Sasha Faber. Hello and good to see you again.
Yeah, good morning. It's been a while since we've had this chat. So
it certainly was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not possible to determine what the schedule is going to be any single day. It's a very dynamic profession, this.
Well, I'm glad that we're here. Lots to get through, as usual, of course, taking us around the world through technology, through science. So let's begin. First up, it's from the Kiev Post. Let's head over to the border with Ukraine and Romania. So
yeah, the situation has been quite tense there.
Absolutely, yes, and it's just getting more tense. And obviously, with the strikes that are happening all across Ukraine, this is particularly disturbing. Just about 200 meters away from the border, there's been a strike. Now, of course, the Russians are really pummeling and punishing the Ukrainians even more so. Ever since the grain deal, they were trying to destroy the port infrastructure, different ports all across there, Izmail, Reni, Kali. So these matter because these are ports that link up to rivers. So this is the first time that the Russians have been striking these riverine ports, which is, I think, quite significant because right now...
No, it is. It doesn't look like a military target to me.
It does not.
It's nothing new, obviously.
Well, absolutely not, yeah.
It's an escalation of the behavior that they've been exhibiting recently, because they've been attacking the port of Odessa. Civilian targets have been on the Russian list from the very beginning of the war, so it's not like they are only now moving into war crimes territory. They have been there right from the start. But as you're saying, this is significant because this is a port that is supposed to make it possible to use an alternative route to the one that was covered by the grain deal. So not the Black Sea, but the Danube River.
Yeah, exactly. Now, interesting you mentioned escalation there, because that's exactly, those are the words from the Romanian president, Mr. Ioannis, who's called this an escalation. Obviously very worrying that it's so close to NATO borders. Now, this article here does sort of, let's say, push more towards the idea that NATO must do more. I mean, we know that there's already patrols by NATO fighter jets close by to the border, so this is in the realm of the eastern flank of NATO, so there is protection there. But it is worrying. It reminds me, remember last year we had in Srebrenicin, on the eastern border with Poland, in this small town where these...
Oh, the stray missile incident. Yes, the stray missile incident. So what was the response of NATO forces?
Yeah, so we have more increased, let's say, patrolling. I think there's a particular type of aircraft that actually got much closer to where this happened. This is very rare that after a target has been struck by Russians, that NATO aircraft or NATO forces come close to that event. So I think this shows that there is a response here, that they are...
Quite a conspicuous one, too.
absolutely. I think that's the point here, right? To show that NATO is here, it's present.
Well, exactly. Like, there is a tripwire there, so you guys better be careful next time you're trying to pull off something like that.
Yeah,
So certainly a signal being sent to the Russians. There have been suggestions that NATO might want to do more, for example, escorting the ships across the Black Sea, since this is more or less what the US is doing in the Hormuz Strait and scaring off Iranian forces there. And it works, because they dare not attack a US Navy ship. Could work here as well. Would be a dangerous route to take, but also one that could actually bring an end to this current stalemate. Now, let's move on to our next topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So we move on now, I believe, to The Guardian, which will take us exactly into some news about the environment, about, unfortunately, some bad news. And it's saying here very much that there could be a collapse of the vital Gulf Stream. Now remember, this in scientific terms is the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, if you want the scientific version. So the idea is here that this has been vital for our planet, vital for rainfall, vital for temperatures, even to the Amazon rainforest. Now the idea is here, some scientists are saying here that we've reached a certain tipping point where, because of the polar ice caps melting, there's too much fresh water that is actually mixing with the current, and the whole current is being disrupted. So if this happens, this is going to affect billions of people.
It could happen fairly quickly at that, according to these studies. I mean, there is a discussion to what extent it is possible to predict that. But the date that was given, the 2025, I mean, that is very concerning indeed, isn't it?
I think it's not so much in the report that this is not going to happen. As you said, this is the data that they've been using. I think they use a certain point starting about 1800s with the data they've collected. So the scientists are saying that this is something that is unfortunately happening. Will get worse, but of course that time frame of when this happens, this collapse, is up to debate. But nevertheless, I think all of the scientists will agree that if the Gulf Stream does collapse, that this will be a terrible, terrible thing for our planet, for many, many people. Rising sea levels, colder temperatures in Europe. This is another thing where we have to be really careful about the environment. So unfortunately, there's probably more bad news ahead in that department, but it's a warning sign from scientists like many others. Right?
And we're not pretending to be experts on the matter, but there was another number that was given there. It was actually a couple of thousands of years since this last occurred.
Yeah.
And when that occurred, we were actually experiencing a period known as the Ice Age. So we really wouldn't like to go back to that. Now, moving on to issues related once again with global politics, China is on the menu, and we've got a reshuffle, quite an unexpected one too.
That's correct. I mean, you've heard of certain disappearing magic tricks, and this is another one, but it's a Chinese magic trick of high-level politicians and billionaires disappearing. So the gentleman you see in the picture there, that's Qin Gang, who has been ousted as foreign minister. Now, he's had, let's say, a dubious reputation in the United States. And the news from the article says here from Politico in Washington is that he's not going to really be missed. This guy was somebody who's been in Washington for a while, but was just considered too much of Xi Jinping's parrot, not really diplomatic, very pushy. So news is from diplomatic circles, they're all right with him being gone. Not that they agree with the circumstances, mind you, but certainly that he's no longer in the picture. Doesn't really ruffle too many feathers, called prickly by many, let's say, mild terms in that record. But I mean, this is significant because this now goes back. Wang Yi is replacing him, so he has a lot of experience in the matter. He's a bit older, but this
Wang Yi also has been pretty much the top diplomat anyway.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
According to the hierarchy within China, he was actually above Mr. Xinjiang. So what could this mean for the possible escalation or rapprochement between China and the US? Is it possible to gauge these signals yet? What is the track record for Mr. Wang Yi in this regard? He has been fairly hawkish every now and then.
He has been, but he's also more or less a steady hand. I mean, remember that he does have that experience. I mean, this is better the saying devil that you know, right? So someone that the Americans have dealt with for a while. I mean, rapprochement is sort of on the cards. Remember last week we had Kissinger in China. We've had the high-level talk with Blinken in China as well. Then Janet Yellen was there. So let's just say the channels are open. And I think the more interesting point here, I think, is what this says about Xi Jinping, because Xi Jinping picked Mr. Gang in the first place. So this is kind of reflects on his choice and perhaps a bit of embarrassment for him. Of course, he's not going to really come forward.
Well, he's not going to admit that.
Absolutely
right?
not. We might not even see this gentleman anymore. Remember also this famous tennis star also missing for many, many months. Jack Ma also missing for a long time.
That's one of the top Chinese businessmen there. So it is something that has actually been happening before, right? In terms of this totally opaque manner in which they approach such things.
Yeah.
Still, this could be a signal, perhaps, that things might be about to change. And also, I'm glad that you've mentioned Henry Kissinger, because this was a very interesting episode there. From a formal standpoint, that was unofficial. But then again, a similar visit 50 years ago signaled a sea change in mutual relations. Probably not going to be anything that dramatic, but perhaps something is brewing right around the corner. We'll yet to see what it is. But in the meantime, let's jump forward to another story there, shall we?
Well, one thing that you and I both like to do very much is use a particular social media platform to talk about all these news stories. But we're going to have to change our, let's say, verb and how we refer to that. Twitter has changed its name, or is in the process of changing its name. I don't know, you don't like it either. I don't like it. Just single letter, X.
And the hugely imaginative logo, which someone has pointed out, is actually a sign within the SC code. Like, it was just copied and perhaps modified to a tiny degree. Some people are thinking, they're actually expressing concerns. Is it even going to, fall under, copyright protection, right? Is it, could they actually use it as a trademark? Is it not too generic? The name is fairly generic, and people have actually been pointing out that certain websites of a certain inclination could take perhaps exception to that. We're not going to advertise these websites, but some people might be aware of what they are. Especially given that if you multiply this particular letter, it will take you into a certain direction. Still, are you going to actually be, I'm going to call it Twitter, pretty much,
Well, that's the thing, right? It's established as a brand for so many years, and it's so hard to do that these days. And I think if you have such a successful logo and a brand and the name and the following, it's so hard. I mean, it's already knocked off massive value for the company.
Just throwing it all away.
Right? So it's strange. I mean, this is something I would have imagined with some kind of tweet of his, or sorry, X of his. See, it's already confusing, right?
Really.
It's confusing how to even talk about it.
It's like, imagine, Google decided to change its brand name. People would be still Googling.
Well, I mean, they did. I mean, it was Alphabet now.
Not the company itself, but not the actual
brand remains.
Yes,
but
the search engine still called Google.
Facebook has done the same, right? Now we're supposed to be talking about Meta, right? And many people still calling it Facebook anyway. So it's a very, very strange choice.
Well, it is.
A very difficult one.
And it goes very deep, because it's actually changing the name of the app and of the service, not just the company itself. Because it's understandable. If you want to branch out, you want your company to have like a broader term, like Meta, and then they will be, they could be dabbling with artificial intelligence, virtual reality applications and all that, so the metaverse and all that. So they wouldn't be calling it the Facebook version.
No, absolutely not.
But this one, and a very interesting epilogue there. They were trying to change the logo on the building, and they got actually, stopped by the municipal services because they fell afoul of some sort of local regulations. Couldn't do that. Wonder if this could also happen in the virtual world as well as the real one, because I'm not going to get used to. But it's
another long list, isn't it, Jonas? On a long litany of list of what Elon Musk is trying to do with this company, and I think that there's going to be a lot of, not just this time investors, but also I think a lot of users and fans who are not going to.
Well, it could be those who haven't already noticed the fact that also there are many accounts that are involved in disinformation tactics, and they have been reinstated. They are still there. So this is a separate topic. Still, the X marks the spot, at least for the time being, because we unfortunately have run out of time. Sasha Farber was with us with all the latest headlines.
It was a pleasure.
And now, let us take a look at what the rest of the day is going to bring.
UN Food Systems Summit is coming to an end today. After 3 days of productive discussions, Italy Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation will provide closing remarks on behalf of the host country. The summit brought together 2,000 participants from 161 countries, including 22 heads of state or government and more than 100 ministerial delegates. Today, the United Nations Security Council will be gathering for a session on the matter of threat to international peace and security in Ukraine. One of the main topics of the session will be the matter of export from Ukraine and Russia after EU and Turkey brokered a deal was halted by the Kremlin. The Paris 2024 Olympic Games are just now 1 year away. International Olympic Committee President will today attend a ceremony to invite the world's Olympic athletes to take part in the Paris Games. Notably, Russia and Belarus will not be invited to take part amid the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine. Today's exclusion is likely to allow athletes from these two nations to take part in the Games, but without using the country's official flag and colors. However, France could still block Russian and Belarusian competitors, who are often members of the military, from attending the Olympic Games by refusing to issue the necessary visas.
So we've got ourselves a few controversial topics today, and this is a perfect moment to begin our debate. Joining us here on TVP World are Paul Thompson, Vice Chairman of British Conservative Party, and Grigory German, journalist at the Ukrainian ICTV channel. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, nice to see you.
Hello,
again.
thank you for the invitation.
So let us begin, and we should probably start with the Olympics, right? Because this is something that's going to be very much making the headlines in the coming weeks. So, Paul Thompson, what do you think should be the role of the Olympic Games? Do they have the capacity to unite? And does this capacity also extend to perhaps legitimizing what we often refer to as not only aggressive strategy on the part of Russia, but actual war crimes there? This is a difficult topic. What do you think?
I lost my camera thing. UFO what?
It's true that the
UFO what?
I think NASA's work, as they work to identify and highlight specific parameters that can be found, we can take that information and promulgate this to the public sector so that we can have a more open conversation about what we're seeing.
You know, in 2020, the Department of Defense released several videos of UAPs, including Mr. Freyer's experience, U.S. Navy pilots that recorded footage. In 2021, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released a preliminary report on UAP events. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson stated that NASA would begin to investigate these events. In fact, I sit on Science, Space, and Technology Committee, and when we were doing a hearing
Hey,
with the NASA Administrator Bill
Gustavo.
Nelson,
It's
I
going
asked,
well.
you know, why
The
NASA
temperature
needed
here is
to be
dropping,
fully
so I'm really,
funded,
really happy.
and there were many great reasons, but one of
How
them
is it
was
there? I hope
actually
life is good.
had to do with UAPs. He actually mentioned, you know, is there life out there? I don't know. And so either way, these actions ultimately led NASA to assemble the independent study team that I mentioned earlier. Also in 2021, Harvard University stood up the Galileo project to research and examine the origins of UAP. So it seems like both, you know, from NASA and in the higher education community, because of the work that y'all have done and people standing up, you know, I think we're seeing some of that stigma slowly going away. Mr. Freyer, do you believe that military pilots feeling empowered to share their UAP experiences has directly impacted the scientific community's research goals on this topic?
I would say yes. I would say that.
Man, my view of it is these are foreign flycraft. I feel like that's the blandest, most boring thing it could be. Just like boring as foreign aircraft that we didn't know was supposed to be in whatever place, and you know, people mistake it for whatever. Now it will be interesting if they bring up evidence of something actually supernatural in a way. But like, I don't know, I'm coming from the position of it being foreign aircraft until something else is proven. I'm not a big UFO believer. With a thick cloud layer in the sky. I know, right? I was so happy today. We had rain. It was raining, and as I was working, you could hear it on the roof of the building, and I was so happy. And people coming in, they were like, "Why are you happy? Like, it's so horrible outside, and it's like windy, and everyone's wet and everything." And I was like, "No, no, it's fucking great. I missed it so much. It's 20 degrees right now. You know how good that is? It's 20 degrees. We do have red warning for the storm, so, but it's 20 degrees. We haven't had 20 degrees in quite a while. We haven't had 20 degrees during, what's the word? Night. That was like nighttime, and you would have 30. This is fucking great. I'm so happy for it. Everyone's behaving differently, everyone's acting differently. People aren't sweating as much as they used to. I'm just a fan. I'm a big fan. Learned to appreciate rain. I started loving it when I first saw Harry Potter movies. For whichever reason, I was a kid and I was like, wow. And now I just kind of like it. The darker it is, I'm happier. And currently the weather here is just magical. Just fucking magical. Wait, I want to hear what they're saying.
Can you jump in? Just jump right in. We're good. Has the U.S. government become aware of actual evidence of extraterrestrial or otherwise unexplained
Yo,
forms of
Taivo,
intelligence?
you get
If
it
so,
by
when do you
me
think this first occurred?
doing the VIP
I like to use
command.
the term non-human. I don't like to denote origin. Keeps the aperture open, both scientifically.
Wait, how do I do it?
Certainly, like I've discussed publicly previously, 1930s.
Okay. Can you give me the names
I'm very
and
dumb.
titles
Let me
of
see if this
people
works.
with direct first-hand knowledge?
I'm
and
incredibly
access to
dumb.
some of this crash retrieval-
Smart,
some
actually.
of these
Smart
crash
it worked.
retrieval programs,
I'm
maybe
incredibly
which
smart. I knew
facilities,
this would
military
work.
bases
I
that
didn't
would
doubt
be
myself
covered
until
material
now.
would be
At
in.
all.
I know, like Congress talked about, we're going to go to Area 51.
I always forget what the command is. Because the
There's nothing
OBS
there
chat
anymore
doesn't show me
anyway.
the thing
It's
that
just, you know, it
normal
moved
chat
like a
shows you,
glacier as soon as we
which is
announced
like
it.
how to end
I'm
the
sure
command
moving
thing.
vans will pull up, but please.
I can't discuss that publicly, but I did provide that information.
It's
to,
USA
intel
talking
committees
about
and stuff.
And we could get
UFOs.
that in the skiff if we were allowed to get in a skiff with you. Would that be probably what you would think?
Sure, if you
But
have the
like
appropriate
my
access.
views on UFOs are
What
very
special access
boring.
programs cover this information, and how is it possible that they have evaded oversight for so long?
I do know the names. Once again, I can't discuss that publicly. And
My views on UFOs are very fucking boring, and they're going to stay boring until I get some evidence. And I don't think I'm ever going to get some evidence. How they admit that UFOs are real? It's basically like, oh, there's some shit flying around. Why is there some shit flying around? That's that. I do think it's foreign aircraft mostly. You know, it's like Russia sending shit around or whatever the fuck. That's how I see it. So yeah, I guess it's one of those conversations which like I'm getting from the position of USA being worried about their safety and the safety of their borders, because foreign aircraft can just, you know, come into the country and chill around there and no one's doing anything. And I think a lot of other people look at it and go, oh, aliens? And I think I think we come from vastly different positions. I think we see the world through a very different lens. Yes, some Mars attacks. Shit got lit. Yeah, that would actually be cool. That would actually be cool. I would kind of support it. I would be okay with some chaos starting around over it. They rip off their human skin and reveal that all politicians are aliens. To be fair, I don't know if there's a single politician worth of being an alien, because they're all acting very dumb. I would imagine if you're an alien and if you manage to put on a human suit and control a society on Earth, at least you would be, you know, something. You would be doing something. Which one of her politicians? Meloni? Is Meloni an alien? Meloni could be an alien. She's quite based. I guess it could be her. I don't know who else. I don't know who else. No one else. Just no one else deserves the title. No one else deserves to be a person from the outer space. That's that.
They lose over $1 billion a year, we think, and I was told Department of Defense, maybe 60% of their assets are unaccounted for, whatever the heck that means. In the public sector, you go to jail for that kind of crap. So tell me.
Wait, now
Yeah,
they're
I
talking
know when
about
I'm
corruption?
$1 off of my DTS travel voucher, I get hammered, but
Yeah,
seems like it
Melanie
doesn't
had a
work
really,
that
really
way.
good
Sell
speech recently. Where's Melanie? I bookmarked her. She had a really, really good speech against fascism recently, and I was like, damn. I wish we had more politicians who do really, really good speeches. I wish we had more of them who are like very, very loud. I'm not too happy with Croatian politicians recently, so I think that's creating kind of, you know, very salty opinions from my side on politicians and their ability to speak, because ours have been really, really lazy lately. Even HDZ, which usually is a party trying to get as much attention as possible, even they are kind of pussies. They're kind of pussies. Wait, does she? Well, I just saw her speech and I was like, bro, I wish we had someone able to use that many words. I wish we could do that.
E cade la maschera e si fa strage in una parola di secoli di storia.
Oh, I saw the entire video on like the fascism thing was kind of, but I don't know if it's how do I say it? I don't know if it's a case of her seeming really, really based because she's responding to someone who is incredibly stupid. You know what I mean?
Meglio vivere sotto una dittatura che morire. Io
like,
penso che noi dobbiamo lavorare.
does she sound based just because she's responding to someone who's very, very stupid? Could be. I'm still a fan of the speech. I thought it was a great speech. I was like, yeah, nice, holy shit, nice, GG. Oh, Max. She hasn't done... Hey, I do have a video saved though. I do have a video saved on European Union. Oh shit, now I saw this. 215 women, 194 men, 5 children. Bastards. Just bastards. Now, yeah, absolutely, we're not going to be having a conversation on this. Oh, absolutely. Just fucking horrible. Anonymous Phenomenon Task Force. Opposition dude from the Star Movement who generally holds cocked tanky views in Russia. Yeah, like it's possible she sounds based because she is responding to someone incredibly stupid. It's like it's easy. I don't know why my Budanov isn't showing up on screen, by the way. There's something messed up with my alerts. Oh shit, wait. Actually, I do know. I just have to figure out a way to fix it. But yeah, it could be a case of that. It's like a very USA tactic, maybe, right? It's you take whatever your opponent is saying. You take like the dumbest one of them, and you quote them, and then you respond to them, and it makes you feel better than like all of them combined. Good way to get votes, I would guess. Removing lesbian mothers' names from birth certificates? But really? Whoa. Hey, by the way, the timer thing we have on detect and destroy, it's finished. It's finished. Detect and destroy. We collected it. It's done. We collected enough. I posted about this on Discord yesterday. There has been enough funds donated. Come on. I have to show this to you. Yay! Where the fuck is it? Here it is. Oh, come on, open it. Nice. X is glitching. Okay, X is glitching. Here. Discover Destroy is officially declared completed. Sincere thanks to everyone who contributed to collection with a donation, repost, or kind word. Meeting once again united Ukrainians and friends of Ukraine all over the world. Just great, fucking great. Just X is not working as X should be working, okay? X is glitching. stripping lesbian couples of their parenthood status if they adopted a child. What is it with like specifically lesbian couples though? Were lesbian couples allowed to adopt a child and they had a parenthood status and gay people didn't? Or like were both types of couples allowed to adopt but only lesbian couples are getting their names removed from the birth certificate and gay couples are not? Like why specifically targeting lesbians? Nationalistic? Oh, I'm a Croatian. My level of being complicit with nationalism is relatively high, to be honest. It's relatively high. Like, as long as you're not planning to do some ethnic cleansing, you're not planning to do invasions, you're not imperialistic in nature. Yeah, I think a part of nationalism is just, you know, acceptable. It's like with corruption, you know? It's like with corruption. If someone tells me, like, oh, this politician is corrupt, I'm like, bro, I'm Croatian. I can't, you know, I can't give too much shit about it. Elon got fired from PayPal because he wanted to rename his to X. I've actually seen a post today that said that they did an research into this, and they have told him that the idea has been rejected because X is going to make it sound too much like a porn site. So then he made Twitter into a porn site right now, which doesn't really seem to be the smartest thing to do, but also he's a fucking idiot, so I don't know. Patriotism is fine. Fuck nationalism. Yeah, I think the line is very, very muddied. I think the line is very, very hard to say. So I think I just gonna have tolerance for certain behaviors as long as they don't turn into like an outright chauvinism. And I don't know exactly where the line is. Best to said non-human. I am still skeptical until we get more info. I am still being skeptical until we get like actual evidence of anything being non-human. I ain't buying it. Yeah. I wish, but I'm like, because it's like patriotism, nationalism. I feel like they have there's an overlay. You know, there's overlaying parts, and then I don't know what specifically the line is. And I've heard people misuse both of them. So then it's like, As a German, okay, shit. But still though, it's kind of like those USA memes. You know those USA memes which are like, oh, black power, yay! Asian power, yay! White power. I guess it's like that in Europe, isn't it? It's like Croatian pride, yay! Slovenian pride, yay! French pride, yay! German pride. Wait. It's, you know. Just a distraction if they don't show any solid proof. Yeah, I want to see an alien. I want to see an alien. I want to see an actual like alien being there. I don't want to see people being like, oh yeah, well, maybe something like this has happened. I don't trust any of it. I think humans are fucked up. I think as a fucked up little being that you are, there's going to be a lot of things that you will fail to see because, you know, in your heart of hearts, you're still a random ass little bunny rabbit trying to survive during the times of dinosaurs. You're kind of dumb. So of course you're going to be missing a lot of things. Just think about how many things you miss usually. I rarely know, and how many things you misremember. I don't know how valid taken any of the testimonies. And even then, I don't know how more likely I would be to accept the idea of something being non-human instead of just being like, oh yeah, this is just a human design, but the human is in, you know, secret services of another country and they made a spy little plane to look at what you're doing, to look at your wife shitting, you know? You never know. It's who said it? It was Carl Sagan, I think. He said that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that's where I am. No, that's where I am. I'm staying on the idea of like it's either another one of those weather balloons or some shit, or even like military crap. It's either something of that, or we have a mismatch in being able to report stuff happening in our own airspace, but I'm not really buying the alien theory. Patriotism is loving your country, nationalism is hating the other countries. Oh, so like nationalism inherently is chauvinistic, right? Nationalism would have to be chauvinistic from the start. Never looked at the definitions. Versus patriotism. Patriotism is the older one. No firm guidance. They write a whole fucking article to be like, oh yeah, we don't know if nationalism is bad or not. we have no idea. Tate, 2.5-hour interview. How was it? Everyone intelligent person should watch it, whatever your views on the guy might be. Really? Is it worth watching? Was it like hate watching, or did you actually enjoy some of the points brought up? Because now I'm kind of interested. now I'm kind of interested. Part of me is like, oh, maybe. Shitload of subjects. Oh, because I'm a big hater of Tucker. But also I'm not a fan of Tate either, even though I think he is smarter with stuff he says. Patriot. So patriotism generally has a positive connotation. It's used for various positive sentiments, attitudes and actions involving loving one's country and serving the great good of all its people. Nationalism generally has a negative connotation. It's used for political ideologies and movements that are more extreme and exclusionary love of one's country at the expense of foreigners, immigrants, and even people in a country who aren't believed to belong in some way, often racial and religious ground. Oh, so yeah, chauvinistic, right? I enjoyed how people here didn't define themselves through their nationality. Unfortunately, it's changing again since the far-right party is gaining more support. Oh, the AFD. I just spoke to my brother recently on this. AFD is like very, very populist. They almost got him. We were talking yesterday, and he was like, "Oh yeah, well AFD is they're like very smart with the way that they're commenting on the current situation in Germany, and they want to solve all the problems with immigrants and all the problems with the Green parties." And I was like, "How are they going to do this?" And he was like, "Well, I don't know." And it's because they don't have a proper plan that's gonna work. They just have populism. They have a thing being like, oh, everyone is angry about this thing in Germany. Let me be against the thing. So everyone against it is going to vote for me. And then they don't actually bring up any sort of a proper plan at all, ever. It's like when they were against cancel culture, against punishing people for things they say. And then one of them tried to sue a journalist for saying something about her that she didn't like. You know, it's like, You don't actually hold any of these values. You don't actually give a shit. You're just trying to figure out what is going to get you the most votes at the same time. Oh, Tucker's not the one doing the talking? Ah, I feel like it would be interesting to watch it in a way of judging Tate about his existence. Because I mostly judge Tate about his existence. He's a very Jordan Peterson man, in my view. Just like a younger version. But I find it interesting how many things he can say. They're just dumb as fuck. But then he says one interesting thing and a lot of his fans immediately jump on him. I find that to be rather, I don't know, it's kind of fun to watch. It's like, you know how for quite a long time people were being like, oh yeah, Tate is like very, very stupid sometimes, but he actually has some really, really good points. And then you ask what points, and then they would link you to that one single clip they had of him saying that having a partner is actually good for you. And they would just constantly bring up that one because they had nothing else. That's what it reminds me of. They can just rely on being against the government. They don't have any solid party program. Yeah, like that. It's shit. It's a very, very lazy way to exist as a party. And then, I don't know, to see people supporting them, it weirds me out. And my brother is very fucking smart, you know? So if he almost got onto their side, then I don't know. Getting old shows in his speeches. Tate is a lot more articulate and concise in this. Ah, it's like more fun to analyze. I know he had some trash-ass takes on Ukraine. That's basically as much as I know about his views lately. It might be interesting to watch. They propose to force jobless people to work, or otherwise they won't be able to vote. What? And restrict their bank accounts, and raise retirement age to 72. What the fuck? Hasn't said a single thing I disagree with in this interview other than his rambling about religion. Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Now I gotta watch it. Oh, now I gotta watch it. Why did he not speak about the war? I was under the assumption those two fuckers are definitely going to be talking about Ukraine. Huh. That is interesting to me. Has he changed his mind on Ukraine? He talked about Ukraine? Wait, he talked about Ukraine in a way that is agreeable? Oh, I gotta hear that. Oh, that is very surprising to me. Did we watch part of this and then we stopped watching it? I don't want the full interview, I want Ukraine part. I'm gonna watch the full interview later. Do we do full and then we jump to... it's some dude talking about it. Fuck. Okay, this one. Okay, nice. That's him describing the Loverboy method. I'm not too interested in that one. I just want to see his views on this, because I know last time he talked about this, he had the whole USA bad thing, didn't he? Human trafficking, Oh. Oh no, he's in Romania. Man speaks a lot. Man speaks a lot. I feel like that's a big problem. Hey, watched Oppenheimer? How was it? Oh, Russia. Found Russia. You liked it?
Support for a war against Russia in the
I'm still planning to watch it, so I still don't really know what happens.
bottom line issue.
I did see Barbie though. I saw Barbie. Barbie was really, really good. Funny making fun of him though. Yeah. Tate's thoughts on Nauru. Does Tate know what Nauru is?
Government and for the American media about it. Putin credit for curing COVID, right?
Oh shit, no, I saw this part. I got really annoyed by this part. I stand by being very, very annoyed by this part. It's like it's a grandmother opinion. It's an edgy grandmother opinion. I think I've even made this comment when we saw that little clip during our watching of No Fuckers video on this. This is a thing that your slightly conspiratory uncle says at a family lunch. He's like, hey guys, have you noticed Putin cured COVID? Because after Putin did the invasion, no one really talks about COVID anymore. Ha 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 ha, I am so intelligent. And then everyone at the table is like... That's basically what Tate did with this one. I think this is why we stopped watching actually the No Fuckers video. It's because I was so annoyed by this comment, and I'm still very, very annoyed by it. It's one of those jokes that are like...
When this invasion happened, COVID went away.
See?
So thought about that. Think about it. It's almost to the day. So we have to give him some credit at least for doing that. And maybe the bad guy of the world, but at least he cured COVID for everybody, nearly instantly. Fair. Thank you, President Putin. Yeah, I up until this point never really commented too heavily on politics.
Yes, that's not true.
I understand very well. I like to believe what's happening with Ukraine and Russia. And what I will say to the people who are watching this at home is that if you are naive enough to believe that there are good guys and bad guys in wars, and it's as simple as good and bad, and that the bad guys are crazy, and the good guys want freedom, then you need to do a little bit more investigation into what's really happening. And when you look at the vested interest of any country or any person...
Can I just ask you to pause and just comment? That's the truest thing, what you just said. That is, and anyone who doesn't understand...
The reason Tucker is saying that's the truest thing he has heard Tate say is because Tucker is an imbecile, and so is Tate. There absolutely is a good side and a bad side in this war. There is a good side and a bad side when it comes to a situation where one side is conducting an unjustified invasion onto another country's territory. There absolutely is a good side and a bad side. When the side doing the unjustified invasion onto another country's territory is also using genocidal rhetoric while doing the mentioned invasion, while they leave mass graves in cities they occupied, while they kidnap children from the country they are occupying and take them over to their own country for re-education. There absolutely is a good side and a bad side. The both-sidism thing, it's like very cheap, very elementary school level analysis of warfare. You know, it's like when the conversation about a war was fresh and And Twitch wasn't really used to analyzing warfare. You remember when hot take was that during wars all sides do crimes? It reminds me of that. It's like very, very cheap level of analysis. One side here is breaking international law. One side here is invading. One side here is being the aggressor. It is what Russia is doing then, though. Even if we could blame the rest of the world for what they are allowing Russia to do, it still is a fact Russia is doing it. You're taking agency from Russia for no reason at all. Use human mass graze info drop today. Seems kind of easy to point out who the bad guys are. You know, people are going to be like, oh yeah, well, Bucha was, you know, questionable on who did it. So Izium is the same thing. You ask Grisha's mother and she's going to tell you it's all a Hollywood movie. It's not about why are we surprised. It's still Russia doing this. You're taking agency away from them for no reason. This invasion is the fault of Russia. This is a Russian aggression that must be condemned. There is no validity in your attempts to take away blame from Russia by pretending somehow Russia doesn't have agency on its own and isn't making choices on its own, and by trying to blame everyone else for the choices Russia is making. Sure, we can blame the West for being pussies, we can blame us for being cowards, we can blame NATO for not allowing Ukraine and Georgia in to protect them. All of that is true. But at the same time, the main perpetrator here is Russia. The side doing all of this is Russia. It is Russian people spreading words of a genocide and trying to kill all Ukrainians. It is Russians. So I don't really see a reason to blame, you know, anyone else more than you would be blaming Russia. Now, Biden's been bait so far. Biden's been great.
Should shut the fuck up. And I mean it. Having seen war, anyone who's telling you that it's Churchill versus Hitler is an idiot.
Complete. Well, I'll give you an example. When my father was still alive, my father.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, no, it's true. When my father was still alive, my father died 6 or 7 years ago. I was a lot younger. The war in Afghanistan was going on.
He died 6 or 7 years ago. How old was he?
56.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
sorry.
he died. But
Biden was based. What are you talking about? Biden's based on
and I
Ukraine.
remember asking my dad, saying, "Why do the Taliban even fight and resist the American war machine? They don't stand a chance. Like, why are these terrorists even fighting against the American war machine?" And my dad said, "They're fighting for their way of life. They want their wife, and they want their children, and they want their society and their language, and they don't want pride flags, and they don't want American bullshit.
Oh shit, his father was as stupid as he is,
huh? To be a culture and be a people which is independent in and of itself. Like, they're not the bad guys you think they are. They're people who are like, why are you here? What do you want? We don't agree with that. That's against our holy book. Fuck off." Right? So even there's no such thing as good and bad.
Man's like, hey, I just gave a very cheap, very elementary school level analysis of warfare, and I'm going to support this very cheap, very elementary school level analysis of warfare by pointing out my father was an idiot who believed in culture wars in fucking Afghanistan. Lovely. Just lovely. I gave you a dumb take and I'm supporting it, but my father's dumb take. Biden's kind of weak. Yeah, he's not perfect, to be fair. He's not perfect. He could do much better. But I do think he's doing alright. I don't know. I wouldn't see good reasons to hate on his actions outwards. I do see some of his actions as very questionable. But I feel like he's okay. If Biden has humanity, he should take a stand. We should go to war already and vaporize Russians. Okay, yeah, I could see that. I could see that. But I don't know, man. On one hand, I see it, but it sucks. But I see it, and I think a lot of this is to blame on Europe actually being useless, rather than to be blamed on America. Because if we weren't this useless, we could have helped Ukraine without needing to get America involved. And I feel like then we would not be in danger of seeing, you know, two nuclear powers going against each other, because we would just be seeing, you know, Central Eastern Europe going to aid Ukraine in this. It would create a much safer way to help. And right now we are very reliant on USA, and it's not really doing anyone any good. Blast all the Russian Black Sea vessels, then we'll talk. Yeah, okay, that too, that's fair. I wonder actually what the UK is gonna do about it. They made some comments about their willingness to protect Ukrainian ships recently, but I don't really know. I don't know how far they're willing to go. They haven't made any strongly military-based comments on it. Long-range weapons, yeah, he's scared that they're going to be attacking Russia, which is, you know, again, why I think a lot of this is to be blamed on Europe being useless. If we had better production, if we actually spent 2% on defense, we could have helped Ukraine without needing to introduce USA into this so much. And then our own incompetence made us unable to do so, so now we have to rely on USA, but USA is a nuclear superpower and so is Russia. And then they're trying to be very, very careful over it. Let's say it like that.
In any war. And people... Who was your father? My father was a chess master.
Why is he asking that? We all know about his father. Who cares?
He still has Twitter, @Tate. They need your kids because they can't have their own, to the war that's coming and how Europe's going to have an energy crisis, to the letter. It's all on his Twitter. It's amazing to read. It's like you could tell the future. 10 years ago, no one talked about any of this stuff.
Did he live in the U.S.?
Yes. Yeah, he lived in America.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's crazy. But he was telling me about a lot of this stuff even when I was a lot younger. And as we said, there's no good guys and bad guys. But when you have a vested interest in something, I think that people are relatively simple. You're talking about why the American government has such a vested interest in this war.
Which is not good for America.
Which is not good for America. So is it, well, we can say it's for money or we can say it's for power. What else would it be for?
I don't think it matters at all.
Democracy? Well, I think that's already been destroyed by Zelensky, hasn't it? So
yes.
Also bullshit.
What is it for if it's not for money and power? And then you say, well, who's the money and the power going to? These are logical conversations. This is a very logical thought process.
These are not logical conversations. He's an idiot. The idea of Zelensky destroying democracy's freedom is just bullshit. This is just straight up Russian propaganda he's spewing right now. Zelensky did nothing of that sort. I don't know what he's basing it on. Does he unironically still believe that Ukraine banned Russian language or whatever the fuck? I don't know what position he's coming from, but the position is stupid. The talk about USA having a vested interest in this war, I see the importance of this conversation if you are a person, how to say this, if you think only USA interests matter, and if you base your entire sense of morality around what USA wants. I see a reason then why you would be centering this perspective. Apart from that, I don't really see why you would do this. It doesn't matter why USA is helping. USA is helping Ukraine. That's good. If they're helping to keep Ukraine in their sphere of influence, who the fuck cares? You're helping them defend against a genocide. Like, are we genuinely going to pretend we would condemn them for helping Ukrainians defend against a genocide because they have another interest behind it? Who the fuck cares? People are being saved. That is everything that should matter in this. Money too. I don't care about money as long as Ukrainians are blowing the shit out of Russians. I don't care how much money USA makes from these weapons being used. His priorities on this are very skewed towards centering USA and USA interests as the, middle point of his worldview, and it's just not where I'm coming from on anything. Standing up for democracy and international rule of law. That too. Like that didn't even cross his mind. Weird his father didn't tell him about that. Biden's corrupt. Prisma CEO is in Russia. Ukraine now received F-16s and ATACMS because of Biden. I don't know how much it's because of Biden specifically and how much it's just USA overall. Like I'm not sure how much USA government would be ready to get involved. You know what I mean? I don't know how much someone else would be prepared to go in. Anyone saying Les is a fucking pussy? Yeah. I see that. I do agree we should go to war. I especially agree Europe should go to war. I agree Europe should be immediately joining boots on the ground right now. What is my view though is that I think USA is getting blamed for a lot of things that I don't think USA is necessarily the main party to be blamed for. I think we kind of use it as a scapegoat. And especially what I don't support is using it as a scapegoat to ignore what Europe is doing wrong, you know? And I think we have a tendency to do that. We see Europe doing something stupid and we try to find a way to turn it around and to blame it on USA because it's easier than it would be to acknowledge the faults in your own government and how you should get involved to fix it. Because here, you know, you have a responsibility for what your government is doing and for how you're voting and who you are supporting. But in USA, you don't really. I assume most of us are Europeans, so I'm coming from a European perspective, right? You can't do anything there, you can't fix anything there. So I think it's easy to use them as a scapegoat rather than to acknowledge that your own country isn't doing enough. Every country in Europe went to a war over a made-up story in Iraq. Europe should now force USA to go to war in Ukraine. I think the problem is, though, that when you say Europe should force USA to go to war in Ukraine, why would that be your stance instead of Europe should go to war in Ukraine? Why doesn't Europe go? Why you see, like that's kind of what I'm talking about with you using USA as a scapegoat. Why say Europe should force USA to go to war in Ukraine? Why not say Europe should grow some balls and get properly involved? Because we can get properly involved. We're not doing it. We're choosing to stay useless. Why are we choosing to stay useless? I don't feel USA needs to be centered in this so much. Oh, it's because, okay, I don't know which country you are from. I'm bad at remembering countries. But like my thing is, for example, I believe Croatia should get into a war, right? And I believe it should be my responsibility to do as much as I can to bully Croatian politicians into being as involved in this as possible. And I think this should be a responsibility of every European who genuinely cares about Ukraine. You should be bullying your own people into doing something. You should be bullying your own politicians into doing something. Make sure your voting is proper, make sure your activism is proper, make sure that whenever you can have contact with them, whenever you can have conversations with them, make sure you are very, very clear on your demands as a citizen of a democratic state, right? But I think that, I think it's easy for us to go, oh yeah, my country is smaller than USA, so who cares about me? And who cares about me voting? And who cares about me, you know, doing any sort of activism? What I think we should do instead is bully USA into going in this war. You know what it reminds me of, in a way? We do have a lot of weapons though. France specifically, for example, has a lot of weapons. Germany has a lot of weapons. They have a lot of weapons. They could be sending a lot more to Ukraine than what they are already sending. They're just refusing to. But you know what it reminds me of? When I just got into researching politics, I found this one person on Reddit posting about Croatian influencers who are posting about politics. And one of those influencers I still do follow on several social media, right? Because they are actually very, very good, and they are very, very focused on local affairs. Genuinely good, sharing a lot of petitions and everything, just doing good work. But the thing is that for the others I've checked out, they were Croatian influencers commenting on American politics. They had more posts on American presidential elections than they had on Croatian presidential elections. And I think, you know, like that, in a lot of ways, it's kind of easier to comment on foreign policies because you take away this connection of yourself to the situation, and you take away the responsibility that you as a citizen of a state had in creating whatever the hell this is. I think it's easier, and I think it's cowardly. And I think, you know, when we, as Europeans, when we try to bully USA into making some decisions, I think we're being cowardly. I think you're being a coward because you're not looking into your own garages to see what tanks you have. You're looking into USA garages. Why not look into your own? That is actually something you can have an influence on. This is something you can vote for. This is something where you can lobby your local politicians. Why not do that, which is vastly more productive than going online and writing about what USA should do? And again, I think that's exactly why. It's because admitting to yourself that you could be much more productive than you are is relatively hard. If you were around during 1991, 1995, you don't want your parents, relatives, friends dying in the World War III. To be fair, I have two opinions on that. My first one is that I think World War III is a... There's a way to say this, which is a proper one. Mysticized concept. That's what I think it is. I think it's basically a myth. The way I think it's a myth is not a myth that it's going to happen. I think the idea of it, when people say, do you want World War III to happen? I think they imagine a myth. It's like, you know how people who are watching the war in Ukraine happen, they will be posting videos of Ukraine having McDonald's? And then they're like, oh, is Ukraine really at war? They're having McDonald's over there and it's working? Oh, is Ukraine really at war? They're having parties in these bars? Is a war actually happening? I think people imagine World War III as some sort of a mystical concept where every single person in the world is at war. And I think that's also how they imagine World War I and World War II, despite the fact this is not the way it happened. Like, do you remember how many people were shocked when on Twitter people were publishing photos of dinners in restaurants in London during World War II when they were being attacked, and people would still go out and dress nicely and have fun? It's like that. I think people have a very mysticized view of what a war is. And then, as a connection, I think that as a result of this mysticized idea of what a war is, they don't understand that we are in World War III. I think this is World War III. And I especially think it's going to get worse if we don't do anything right now. But like, for me, this is World War III already. The things we've seen Russia do so far were horrible. I do think this is World War III. I just think people imagine it quite differently than what war is. But also, yeah, the thing with like, you don't want your parents, relatives, friends dying. I don't think we would need to have a conscription in case Europe joins this war. We would be sending a trained military, which we have, which are people paid for their job of being in the national army. I think that's a good thing to do as a NATO country. I think that it should be our role, yes. I do know several soldiers in the official military I know 2 who have volunteered to go to Ukraine. The rest of them I know who are here. Whenever we've had conversations about this, they were like, yeah, you know, it would be a job. If NATO gets in, it would be a part of the job. You are in the troops. You would go to fight for the safety of Europe, you know? Because the question of like, hey, would you be okay with your friends or family or whoever else you have in the paid military going to fight in Ukraine? Wouldn't you be asking yourself the same question if a World War III started? Wouldn't you also be like, hey, am I okay with them going to fight for Romania or Baltics or Poland? In what sort of a reason would you not be okay with them going to fight for Ukraine, but you would be okay with them going to fight for Poland? In my head, the difference doesn't exist. For me, it's, I think, them going to fight for both would be a part of the job and a part of the point that we train them for. It's fighting for the safety of all of us. It's fighting for Europe. That is what they were trained to do. That is what they are paid to do. Of course, I would prefer it if we didn't have to do it. But I'm pretty sure everyone normal would prefer if we didn't have this war. We have this war. So I wouldn't be opposed to sending them to go and fight that. Also, I do feel like they could be fucking Russians up very, very quickly, very, very strongly. So that too. Modern media is racist. There were many civilians killed and terrorized on the African continent for decades. Why is this terror moment in Europe deserving more coverage now? I mean, if you want to talk about civilians killed and terrorized on the African continent, by all means do that. By all means, go and have a conversation about it. No one's stopping you. Pleading for Europe or the US to go to war in Ukraine is a brain-dead view. Like, great, let's send French, German or American soldiers to die in Ukraine and see people in the respective countries going hard right voting for the extreme and close to Putin parties. Yeah, but see, why would they vote for extreme and close to Putin parties? I feel that's a... I feel in a way you're acknowledging a likely outcome, but the thing is that there are problems surrounding a society in which a fight against fascism would make civilians of the society vote for fascist parties. Right? I feel there's deep underlying problems in a form of society you're imagining. And while I can imagine we would have civilians who would go vote right-wing, even then right-wing, like, depends on the country, because there are right-wingers who absolutely support strong responses to Russia's aggression. But the idea of them voting pro-Putin, I feel we're talking about a very stupid part of society overall. Like, I can't imagine how in the world would their mindset be like, oh, I don't like the fact that my countrymen are dying in a war Putin started, so I'm going to vote for Putin, despite the fact Putin started wars previously and is very likely to start more wars later, and is more likely to get closer and closer and closer to those same mentioned countrymen. And if I don't send a few countrymen now to fuck him in the ass, I will have to see a lot of my civilians and countrymen fight in the future because Putin is just going to be too close. You know, I don't see... I don't negate that some part of society is stupid enough to do that. I just don't know how big of a part they are. No party in Germany will ever propose to go to war against Russia. It would be political suicide. Same in France. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Like, as civilians, we can support it. As governments, it's very, very unlikely. But then, like, in the same case, you know, I don't know why USA is blamed for not doing it when no other country is doing it. Because it would be a political suicide in USA as much as it would be a political suicide for any other country. And as long as you don't solve the political suicide part of the problem in your own country, or at least try to figure out a way to solve it, try to be active in solving it, I don't think you stand on stable ground enough to be allowed to bully USA for it, you know? 56 minutes of Horson's interview with Teddy. To be fair, we started in like half of the interview. I just wanted to see his Ukraine takes. I just wanted to see what he says about Ukraine. Boosts from pictures of German, French, and American soldiers dead on the field, and Russia also shrinking European countries, since they would become party to the conflict. But like, how many people would we have who would be, especially if they try to strike European countries? Holy shit! How many Europeans would we have who would be stupid enough to try to negotiate with someone striking European countries? That's my first thing. But also my second thing, I feel sometimes in order to be a good government, you have to do what is right for the nation, and you don't necessarily need to have a public vote on this. Basically, if Russia starts striking European countries, NATO should send troops there to fuck Russians in the ass, and I don't think we should be having any sort of a public vote on this. I think it should happen, and I think we should wipe them off the face of the earth. I don't think pacifists should have a chance to water down the NATO response. I think the response should be very strong, it should be very quick, and it should happen without needing any sort of a popular input on this. It should just be based on the NATO Charter, and that's it. Want more beer now? Hey, I have beer actually.
You know, wouldn't it be interesting to say, okay, I woke up, I'm an American. I would never kill myself. I woke up, I'm an American. Why does America care? Well, I guess it's for money or power. There's no other reason. Okay, well, America wants to be a rich, powerful country. That's fine. Is the money and power going to America, or is it going to a select few individuals? Are those select individuals interested in me and my life? Do they care about benefiting me? Do I need to support the power grab of these select few individuals? Is that going to be a smart move for me to make?
Is he doing the deep state thing now?
This is a very logical thought process. Yes. People don't seem to think anymore. They believe that there's a good guy and there's a bad guy, and one team's completely good and one team's completely bad. One team's crazy. They often use.
See, he's doing this thing again. He's doing the anarchist thing, the Hobbit thing, where he's bringing up points that no one mentioned at all. One side's completely bad, one side's completely good. It's very similar to the one which is like, oh, everyone thinks USA is altruistic in helping Ukraine, and they're actually not. They're getting something out of this. Very cheap analysis of views no one has professed. Just no one said any of these things. No one ever said Ukrainian military is perfectly good in everything they do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why he would be using this sort of a rhetoric, but I do guess that his time in Romanian prison has changed his way of thinking a little bit. Beer country. I needed to actually add that one. Just like adding little beer cans on the screen. Whoa. 108, yes. You get that the wrong way around. The scenario is that we send troops to Ukraine. At that point, we would become parties to the conflict. At that point, Russia would be free to start striking European countries. You are aware Russia has no chance against NATO, right? Russia would not strike European countries if we sent troops to Ukraine. The reason Russia would not strike European countries if our troops are already in Ukraine is because Russia would lose every single conscript they have currently swimming in their own shit in the trenches. Russia has no chance against European militaries. They would not be able to hold on. And most of all, Russia fears NATO. Russia would not dare to actually touch NATO as much as they right now like to do their little poking. They would not actually try to get an Article 5 response. They would not dare to do this. If we become parties to the conflict officially, if our countries genuinely become parties to the conflict, this war would be over in like a week at most. There's no chance Russia survives any of our countries actually becoming parties to this conflict. And there is also no chance they get anything by striking European countries. He'd probably use nukes. I actually don't think he would use nukes. But I think it's because, first of all, he can't guarantee his nukes are working. A lot of them are really, really, really old. He doesn't really have a chance to strike with enough of them to ensure that, you know, at least some are going to work. He doesn't even have a chance to ensure that they're not going to blow up while he's trying to load them on. But a bigger thing, and a bigger problem than this, is the fact that Americans know exactly where these nukes are and what is being done with them. Meaning that if the preparation process actually starts, because it's not like in movies, you can't just press a button and a nuke flies. You have to actually prepare the entire process of this, and you have to do quite long voting on this. If something like this starts happening, USA is going to know. And because USA is going to know, USA has a much stronger ability to wipe the shit out of Russians before they're able to actually launch a nuke. Russia would not dare to do something like that. Oh yeah, Putin has to vote on the nuke being used. It's not like it's going to be a democratic vote for sure, but it still is a process he has to go through. He can't just decide to use a nuke. He has to go through the process of deciding to use a nuke. Then also following the fact that he has built a bunch of oligarchs around him who all have relatives or very close friends in countries around the world. So you would have to be thinking about which part of the world you are allowed to strike without wiping out their own families. Would they agree to wipe out their own families? Very unlikely. Would they agree to wipe out countries which are holding all of their wealth that they have accumulated over the years? Very unlikely. Would they agree with the consequences of using a nuke in the first place? Because we know who is in Putin's inner circle. If they use a nuke, they will never get access to everything they have collected over the years of being corrupt little fuckers in the government of Russia. Would they agree with this? I think overall the possibility of it is very, very unlikely, so I'm not really seeing it as a danger actually facing us. Parliament is deciding on sending the military anywhere. Similarly, in the US, Biden would need a vote in Congress, and with Republicans controlling the House, it's utopic they would be sent. I think even that... I think there would be a possibility of getting Republicans back on the properly patriotic side. But yeah, if Article 5 gets pushed, we will need to have a response. It is interesting to see what the response is going to be fair. I'm not too much of a NATO believer. When it comes to that, I do think if Article 5 is pushed, I do think NATO will try to figure out a way to not do anything. They will try to find a way to to avoid any sort of confrontation. They will try to find a way to stay and to be pussies, right? I do believe in that. It's just that you can't ever be sure about the response they're going to have, and I think for Putin it would be risking too much to play onto NATO's uselessness again. NATO stronger than Russia, therefore send them to Ukraine is a very simplistic stance. I don't think that's a stance necessarily. Russia is threatening the safety and democracy of all European states. Therefore, send NATO to Ukraine to beat the fuck out of Russia is the stance, and I think that one's a lot better. If Russia could use nukes, they would have already used them this winter on Kyiv. Okay, yeah, fair, that too. I don't know. I don't feel like the nuke threat is too much of a reality. NATO response will be weak, possibly. I feel like they're going to water it down. I feel that's what they're going to do. They're going to try and create a situation in which they can pretend like whatever USA did isn't, whatever Russia did isn't as bad as it looks like, you know what I mean? They're going to be like, oh yeah, well, we don't know who fired a nuke into us. If we decide to send troops into a non-NATO country, that would be a hard thing to sell to claim Article 5. I feel with the danger posed, I feel we could still do it. But also I do see how as a part of Defense Alliance, it might be quite hard. But then also NATO did bomb the fuck out of Serbs. So it's like, you know? Because at the time, Yugoslav states were not parts of NATO either, and still we were lucky enough to actually see USA bomb Belgrade. So, hey, wait, what is this? Oh, is this what I think it is? Because if it is, I saved something on it. Or oh shit, yeah. Katsapnia disposes this video, convincing it was filmed by the German far-right party Alternative for Deutschland, AfD. Oh shit, I have to show this to you.
Guten Tag.
Oh yeah, definitely. NATO is very much of a pussy about that, absolutely.
Hi, Zelensky.
Schneller!
Is your house in NATO? Accept NATO in your house. Fun fact about the video, they keep on claiming it was made by AfD. I actually found someone looking into all of the actors in it. I need to find it for you. They're all Russians. All of the fuckers are Russians. It's just Russian-made propaganda they're claiming is actually German-made propaganda. Which, you know, knowing AfD, I'm not too convinced they wouldn't do stupid shit like that. Still, it's very, very cheap out of Russians to be filming shit like that. Where do I have the dude saved? Oh, here it is. Russian Telegram channels spread what they say is German AfD party social advertising, mocking the government's support for Ukraine. The problem is that Russian professional film actors are filmed in it. So it's like this dude, and then there's this woman, and there's this dude, and then there's this woman. So yeah. It was found by Russia today. Nice. Fair. Nice. Germany is giving all its money to Ukraine. If so, Russia would already be dead. I wish. Yeah. I wish Germany was giving all of its money to Ukraine. Holy shit. It's like with their stupid ass complaints about, you know, NATO being in this war. Like, NATO already joined the war. Bitch, I wish. I wish it did. What do you mean? All of this complaining from... give me a sec. All of this complaining about something that we wish would have happened is just... Hey, by the way, I have more videos for you to watch. Holy shit. Wait, how long does he speak on Ukraine?
You were crazy because
Let me see what he goes through.
You have to be crazy, right? So you're crazy. He's crazy, just for no reason. Reasonless. It's insanity. I don't know if you saw Lukashenko with the BBC. Did you ever see that interview?
No.
Oh, brother. Please watch it.
Oh,
the
no.
way he destroys the BBC. I thought I did the best job, but I take amazing, amazing. But yeah, and you just have to be critically thinking, and then after you're critically thinking, you have to be brave enough. And this is the real pandemic of the world, is cowardice.
Which interview is he talking about? Was that one?
Но вопросом на вопрос. Почему в 2014, по-моему, году, когда ваши подопечные в Украине разбомбили Донбасс, вы меня обвиняли в том, что я принял в течение нескольких месяцев 160 тысяч беженцев из Украины, предоставив им все права, которыми тогда обладали Беларусь. Бесплатное образование, здравоохранение бесплатное, работу и так далее и тому подобное. Почему тогда Европейский Союз вместе с Англией, Великобританией, вместе с Великобританией, когда еще вы были там, и Америка не предложили...
This was so stupid. I don't know if this is the interview Tate is referring to, but if he thinks this is owning BBC, he's a fucking imbecile. He's literally not responding to the question. Man's being like, yeah, I hear your question, and instead of answering your question, I'm going to ask you something absolutely irrelevant to the point of this conversation. That is not owning anyone, that is being a fucking coward. That, and also, kind of cute that he believes in Russian bullshit about Ukraine bombing Donbass. He still... when was this filmed? Year ago? Okay, a year ago. I see that.
Потому что так было нормально, хорошо было. Они не в Европейский Союз рванули, хотя отчасти и туда шли. А 160 тысяч ко мне.
Like, they're legit, they're talking about the fact that he invites immigrants to Belarus and then intentionally sends them from Belarus into Poland. He's doing political pressuring by putting so many people on the border. He's intentionally doing this. And they are asking about him intentionally using refugees as a political tool. And he answers with, well, why did no one say anything when I was taking in a bunch of immigrants, refugees from Ukraine? What do you mean? How is that connected to the conversation in the first place? What are you talking about? It was never that easy to get Belarusian citizenship like status. Oh, I don't know too much about that. I do also wonder which people went to Belarus. But also Belarus at the time was not really that close to Russia, right? I think it was that at the time of Lukashenko-Putin split, or? Because they had a split for a while. When Lukashenko figured out that Putin wants to be ruling over Belarus too, and he got quite angry at the idea, so their relationship has crumbled a little bit. And then in 2020 they fixed the relationship again because there were really, really strong protests against Lukashenko in Minsk, and he needed help to be allowed to stay in power, so he called for Putin to help, because at the time he was like a ping pong ball. He was going between Russia and the West. And when the 220 protests happened, he figured that the West is not going to support his claim to power in Belarus, because the West is not really, too supportive of dictators. So he had to go towards Putin. But I do wonder in 2014, I'm not really sure how his relationship was with the rest of the world and Putin himself. Kind of good for elderly people? Yeah, that too. Hey, Pikaling.
В данной ситуации через Беларусь тысячи беженцев хотят к вам.
Ну вы их позвали. Вот еще в мае вы сказали, вот
я
дали
сейчас к этому
публичный
подойду.
сигнал.
Вы не волнуйтесь. Вы не волнуйтесь.
Я не волнуюсь, я хочу
Да,
почему позвали?
значит, они идут через Беларусь, через Средиземное море, не знаю, кто там их позвал, через Балканы, по другим маршрутам, тоже, наверное, позвали, идут к вам, не в Беларусь. То же самое, они через Беларусь хотят попасть, в данном случае, в Германию.
Но вы очень публичный сигнал дали в этом году в мае. Преддверии новых санкций Евросоюза, да?
Дайте
сигнал,
мне,
что пойдут мигранты. Вы сказали,
дайте
вы
мне текст, где я, покажите мне, где я сказал, приходите к нам. Позвали, это значит, Стив, приходи ко мне в Беларусь. Вот я, ты попросил свое интервью, я говорю, приходи.
Вы сказали, мы останавливали мигрантов, а теперь будете сами их ловить, да?
Еще раз повторю.
По разговорам с мигрантами, да, они поняли, что Беларусь открыт сейчас для них.
Значит, еще раз повторю, чтобы вы понимали. В свое время мы заключили с вами договор о реадмиссии.
Mediterranean Belarus, just a very, very easy way to cross.
Вы не против?
Пожалуйста.
Да, вот.
The fastest way to Germany.
Договор о реадмиссии.
I also like how he mentioned Balkans. It's like they would go Balkans, Belarus, Germany. Why? Why?
Это была большая работа, потому что реадмиссия в одну сторону быть не может. Нам надо было договориться и с Россией. России надо было договориться с вами. Ну, в общем, проделали большую работу. То есть, если беженцы у вас прошли через Беларусь, вы нам их возвращали, но вы должны были построить у нас или профинансировать строительство пунктов для этих беженцев. Пошла работа. Вы в прошлом конце прошлого года, особенно в этом году, вводя санкции против Беларуси, ушли от договора о реадмиссии. Вы перестали строить эти пункты пропуска для беженцев. И тогда я сказал, ребята, санкции плюс ваш отказ от работы с беженцами и мигрантами, до свидания. Почему я должен их задерживать на границе, когда они идут в Великобританию, в Германию? Извините меня, создавать тут некий отстойник или лагеря для этих беженцев. Вот в чем был смысл. Поэтому я и сказал, я не буду их задерживать на границе, держать их на границе, повторяю, и впредь не буду, если они будут идти через Беларусь. Потому что они идут не ко мне, а к вам. Вот в чем был смысл. Но я их сюда не звал. И я не хочу, если же откровенно говорить, чтобы они шли через Беларусь.
Мы работали на границе, мы общались с мигрантами. Я хочу вам говорить то, что они нам говорили. Да? Некоторые говорили. Спасибо Лукашенко, что он дал нам визы, что он дал нам возможность попасть в Европу через Беларусь. Да? А некоторые в последние дни говорили, они чувствуют, что вы их использовали как мяч.
Maybe he does live there. Maybe he is Lukashenko.
А некоторые нам говорили, что белорусские солдаты прямо помогли им пересечь границу. Вот один мигрант сказал, нас было 150 человек. Ночью нам сказали, что вы пойдете в Польшу. Белорусский солдат резал забор, мы начали бежать, мы их поймали в Польше и вернули. То есть это прямая помощь, содействие со стороны Беларуси.
Вы знаете, вы все время говорите, Стив, некоторые. И следуя вашей концепции, BBC, как вы это подаете все, ну это везде у вас некоторые и кто-то, а кто-то один сказал, что резали проволоку.
Вы мне не верите?
Абсолютно нет. Я верю фактам. Так вы мне скажите, где
Wait, weren't there actual videos of this? Am I hallucinating?
А вот так говорит, что некоторые вам сказали, кто-то там позвонил, кто-то в деревне сказал. Ну, слушайте, это
Александр Григорьевич, я не думаю, что человек, мигрант, который мне это сказал, спросил, извините, как вас зовут у солдата, да, в этот момент. Но я хочу сказать, что еще несколько мигрантов нам говорили, что если они не смогут попасть в Европу, они не хотят домой в Ирак, да, они захотят остаться жить в Беларуси. Вот вы разрешите?
У нас есть порядок, в отличие от вас, и закон. И к нам пока ни одного заявления с просьбой остаться в Беларуси не поступило.
А если
поступит в соответствии с законом, и очень быстро, в отличие от вас, мы эти заявления рассмотрим.
О чем вы договорились с канцлером Меркель?
Еще раз говорю.
Yeah.
Если вы мне упрекаете в том, что мы помогаем мигрантам туда проникнуть, вы положите факты на стол. Вот к стенке меня поставьте этими фактами. А просто так несколько мигрантов, несколько тех.
Ну, я вам говорю.
Larger vocabulary than average Russian politician. Wait, the interviewer dude, or the third? According to Polish police, last night Belarusian security forces threw stones at Polish border guards and helped 100 illegal immigrants to illegally cross the border. It happens almost every night. Belarusian soldiers help to cut the wire, break the fence, and instruct migrants. There were several videos on this. It's kind of weird he's being like, oh yeah, I don't trust you, as if there's no information on it at all. It's just fucking weird. I like someone here comparing it to what was happening between Greece and Turkey, because yeah, it was basically the same situation between Greece and Turkey. X is blocked in Indonesia because of their porn laws. What are their porn laws? Whoa, it's because of the renaming. Block had to do with domain x.com, which had previously been used to host content that violated Muslim-majority nations' laws against negative material like adult content. To be fair, I'm pretty sure Twitter does actually break any country's laws against negative material. So, you know, this is just reminding them that Twitter actually exists, so they have a chance to properly ban it. They could have done it way sooner. Is this just like him being like... Is this just him being like, yeah, we did nothing, and then the interviewer dude being like, yeah, you did?
Ты видел этот лагерь, где ночью под открытым небом у костров они ночевали? Видел?
Лагерь я видел, и видел еще, как их пропустили за день прямо до контрольного.
Почему мы должны, мои пограничники, должны были их сдерживать? Мы вообще надеялись, что действительно этот конфликт этим закончится, особенно после разговора с Меркель. Они подошли туда. Дальше что было? Следующий эпизод. Не камни были. Они стали на колени перед этими польскими офицерами. Понимая, что их уже пропустят, наверное. Или, по крайней мере, слушай, заявление возьмут. Они стали на колени, извинились перед ними, что неудобства создали. И начали просить, детишки и эти люди, беженцы, начали просить их пропустить. Их не пропустили. И вот там началась эта потасовка. Кто-то камень бросил, кто-то палки и прочее. Вы или ваши подопечные включили поляки, включили водометы и начали их поливать. 0-1 температура была.
Ну, я там находился, я там наблюдал. Вас там не было. Я говорю то, что я видел.
Значит, не все видел. Значит, не все видел.
Я знаю, что вы обсудили этот кризис с немецким канцлером.
Обсудили.
О чем вы договорились?
2000. Я попросил, заберите 200. Тогда было 200, ну, может, чуть больше. Заберите. Ну, страшная ситуация, вы это видите, знаю. Заберите. А останутся у меня...
I'm actually enjoying it. I haven't seen this.
Примерно 5000 я буду работать над тем, чтобы их...
I haven't seen this.
Откуда они приехали? И Афганистан. Вы перестали выходить на контакт и работать. Не хотите? Не надо. Мы без вас будем решать эту проблему. Так, как получится.
А как Ангела Меркель обращалась к вам? Интересно, вот как господин президент или господин Лукашенко или Александр Григорьевич?
А чего вас это волнует? Господин президент в Беларуси, он же господин Лукашенко.
Это интересно.
Для меня никакого не имеет.
Потому что, как вы знаете, вас в Евросоюзе не признают.
Господин президент.
Слушайте, а мне наплевать на то, что в Евросоюзе вы думаете о президенте Беларуси. Меня избирали в Евросоюз. Вы меня не признаете четверть века. Вы просто, Стив, не в курсе дела, наверное. Четверть века меня не признают в Евросоюзе.
Like it doesn't matter. What are these? What is the cake? Our place? You got the cake thing for our place? That is cute. I want a replace cake thing. That is unfair. That is fucking unfair. I had to watch Reddit's event. Oh yeah, I didn't watch it. I thought I can get it for participating. That would be cute. I didn't watch anything on this, I think. I watched Grisha stream on it once, and I watched it only so I could draw over his pixels, so he would be sad. Nothing else. That kind of sucks.
You have to be brave enough to look around you and realize, everything was a trick. Everything was a lie.
But why not be a coward? I mean, it's just a lot easier, right?
Well, it used to be.
Oh shit, that was this was the how to say this in a way that makes sense. This was Tucker jerking him off. Nothing else. That was a stupid question. The question was only posed so Tate could give a smart answer to it. You don't wonder about the answer to that question. No one wonders about the answer to that question because the statement Tate gave before is fucking stupid. This is just two people thinking they are really, really smart, jerking each other off. Didn't Reddit have a word for this? Circle jerk? This is a circle jerk of like two people. That's what it is. That's what it is. Just two people thinking they are very, very, very smart. Hey, thank you. It's like a flowery one. Thank you.
This thing is interesting. I would actually argue in the 1950s and 60s, if you were to agree with every single narrative and obey every single law and do exactly what you were supposed to do and pay your taxes, etc., you'd at least get a wife who respected you. You'd at least have children who go to school without...
Okay, he went into non-Ukraine takes. He went into non-Ukraine takes, I guess. But like the idea you would get a wife who would respected you, fucking laughable. The idea of getting a wife who respected you because you are a citizen agreeing with any sort of a takes is laughable by itself. But also I think this is kind of like usual for Tate's views on the world, isn't it? He does have very weird views on women and men relationship. It's a weird little thing. He's a weird little man. I do want to watch this interview off stream, but I'm not sure how positive I am about going through the part somewhere here where he talks about sex trafficking. I find him to be a very big of a pussy, and I'm not really looking forward to that because previously he used to be bragging on his videos. He used to be bragging about the Loverboy method, and the fact that now he's pretending as if he doesn't know what is wrong with it, it just genuinely pisses me off. He used to be all like, oh yeah, this is how you do the Loverboy method, so you gotta manipulate the woman in order to get her into the bed. You don't get her into the cam business before fucking her. First you gotta fuck her, and then after that, because she now trusts you more, now you get her into the cam business. And he was doing like whole entire explanations of how the whole procedure works. He was so proud of it. And the fact that now he's being like, well, yeah, I never did anything bad. I never did anything manipulative. I don't see why people would hold this against me. Like, bro, at least have the balls to still stand by your old position and go to rot in jail for it. That's just cowardly. You dare to be a coward. You dare to be bold. There's nothing that man is offering to the world. But hey, we gotta watch Roman, and we gotta watch Roman because he's talking about Russian street interviews, and I kind of wonder what he's saying. I wonder if he's coming from the pro-Ukrainian or pro-Russian perspective on this. I wonder what he thinks. Is it going to be like, oh, they're asking mostly people in Moscow, so it's not really realistic representation? Is it going to be like, oh, they choose the most interesting answers, which usually tend to be people who are either against Russia or pro-Russia, depending on which perspective he's taken. So it's creating a skewed opinion of people on the world inside Russia and on the views of most people. I kind of wonder how he sees it.
You've seen a lot of these Russian street interviews. Yes, and I'm pretty sure that after seeing these interviews, a lot of people actually decided that it just seems like in Russia, maybe 1 or 2 people out of 10 are actually decent people, and the rest are just completely insane warmongers who just want to destroy the entire world or whatever. And with all these polls coming out from the Russian government essentially saying that 80% of the Russian population is actually in support of this...
I already don't think he's seeing this realistically. When people say 80% of Russian population is in support of this invasion, I don't think people necessarily mean 80% of Russian population is actively in support of the invasion. I think we mean that a lot of them are just passively okay with it. And that's, you know, in the same way when he says, oh, there's like 1 or 2 people in Russia who are normal, the rest of them are warmongers. I think he's doing a bit of victim bitching about this. It's not that people necessarily think Russians are warmongers. I think people see Russians as passive and complicit and not really willing to do anything to get the government back into something acceptable. Let's say it like that. We don't see Russians do anything. It's not that they are necessarily warmongers, even though some of them were. and still are in these interviews, right? But it's not necessarily about them being warmongers. It's about them not being active against the war at all, which is very bad by itself. So he's kind of doing the thing like with what Tate was doing previously, with like, well, no side is perfect, is completely bad. He's trying to be like, oh yeah, everyone imagines Russians as being completely bad, and we just aren't all that bad.
Military operation, a lot of people essentially come to the conclusion that most of Russian people are complete zombies that have no empathy or humanity whatsoever. Now, I personally do not believe that to be entirely true. I've already talked on this channel
of course
about
you don't hear
Poles in
Russian.
Russia and how Poles in an authoritarian country where you're not allowed to express your opinion or else you'll go to jail for 7 to 15 years. I think these
Also, I fucking disagree with this. There have been several instances in Russia these days, months, years, whatever the fuck, where they had protests and people got arrested for like overnight and then they were allowed to go home. Several times people were arrested, had to pay a small fine, went home. Several times nothing even happened. They just dispersed, went home, that's it. The whole thing of like, oh, Russians are so scared of saying their opinions out loud because they are scared of being targeted is bullshit. In the very much same way, you know what else is bullshit? When we talk about Russians out in Europe, and then people post shit about how it's impossible for them to protest against the war or to be loud against the war because they are scared that Russia is going to be targeting their families in Russia. Fucking bullshit, okay? We have Russian opposition openly posting images exactly of where they travel and how good of a life they're living. Russian opposition. Okay, people who are supposed to be the main bitches against Putin, openly posting everything about them while their families are chilling in Russia and nothing is happening to anyone. This idea of like horribly bad Russia towards its own people, I do think it kind of started as a way to excuse the uselessness of Moscow's specifically. I genuinely am not buying into it anymore. Not to mention that they had ways to protest against Putin previously when his claim on power was weaker than what it is now. They had very good chances to do huge protests back in 2012. They did nothing. Their protests were tiny. They did nothing. There is no opposition in Russia. They support Putin. They're just now trying to imagine this myth of a state controlling everything you do and punishing you for thought crimes just in a way to excuse their own uselessness.
So that exactly representative of what the people actually think. And I'm pretty
Oh
sure
shit, yeah, new mobilization, crap.
The Russian election stats that are coming out from the
I
Russian
actually have a thread on Twitter. X. I have a thread on X on the new mobilization and how many people Russia actually has left in order to do the mobilization. Basically not enough.
Everybody in the West suddenly believe the polls coming from the Russian government that are basically saying that 99.9% of the people are all in support of Putin and Z. That's just a little bit curious to me. Well, in today's video,
Shit, I have another thing. I have a poll saved. Okay, this is actually connected to what he's talking about, okay? There's a poll saved. Where's the poll saved? On what Russians think are the best outcomes, oh here it is, to come from this invasion, and the top one is return and addition of territories. Then we got protection of Russian people, prevention of NATO expansion and Western aggression, strengthening of Russia's global position, protection against fascism and Nazism, bullshit like that, right? But yeah, so I don't know, I'm not really buying into them not being zombies.
Favorite neighborhood Russian, I'm going to try to make you look at these Russian street interviews from a bit of a different point of view, because the truth is that these street interviews in Russia are actually very dangerous, and given the wrong opinion in one of these interviews on the streets could possibly give you a very lengthy sentence in the gulag. And to start off this video, I would like you guys to just watch one clip.
Разрядка нужна, конечно, но все зависит от нашего правительства. Это но наше правительство развязало. Вот Путин, его гоп-компания, Россия сама себе создала вот эти все проблемы.
So yeah, this is just a clip from one of these trade interviews done in Russia, and the question being asked here is basically, does Russia need to seek a normalization of their relationship with NATO?
1420?
And this man right here is one of the only people in this entire trade interview who essentially was brave enough to actually rival the Russian propaganda's narrative. And here, guys, is where I deliver the punchline. Essentially, what's happening right now is that this man is currently under custody and is currently being trialed for spreading fake news and misinformation about Russia's military actions in Ukraine. And this man was at first facing 5 years in prison and is currently being faced with 10 years in prison for a street interview. Essentially, this interview right here was filmed in July of 2022, and in March of 2023, a criminal case was started against Yuri Kakhovets, which is the man in the video, for once again spreading fake news about Russian military. That is actually one of the new laws Russia passed quickly after starting the special military operation in itself, essentially to crack down on free speech and criticism of the special military operation. I have to say this once again. And if you guys' question is, what is exactly spreading fake news about the Russian military? It could mean a very broad amount of things, you know? First of all, from saying the three-letter word that starts with the letter W, if you say that word instead of saying the word special military operation, there's already many cases like this in Russia. For example, a local Moscow politician, Alexei Gorinov, was actually sent to prison for 7 years for saying that exact word not that long ago. So this is happening. And essentially, guys, what this guy Yuri Kakhovets is being trialed for is spreading misinformation and fake news about well, how do I say this, guys? It's really difficult to film these videos, to be quite frank, because
I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble. In big trouble, and I don't want to be in big trouble.
I mean, yeah, exactly, and it's hard for me to even describe what he's being trialed for, but essentially, Yuri here in his interview actually says a bunch of things about the events that transpired in Bucha, and essentially in Russia right now, if you claim that any actions of the Russian military...
Kinda cute. If you look at the post about Gorinov, you look at the post about it in 222, it's this one, you've probably seen this picture. But in the comments, people are like, huh, well, soon Putin will be gone and he will be released. Like a year ago. Wake up, Russians, time to deputinize. A year ago. Cute.
Could classify as you're essentially committing this exact crime of spreading fake information about the military. And so currently here, Yuri is actually being accused of not only just spreading misinformation about the Russian army, but actually spreading it with the intent of spreading hate and animosity. So essentially they're classifying this interview he's given as a sort of a hate crime. So what do I have to say about this? This is absolutely just breaks my heart, to be quite honest. And this man right here, in my opinion, Yuri, needs to be remembered, because I believe stories like these are actually very important. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because it seems to me that in the West, people don't really know about this. They don't really care, to be quite honest. And in my opinion, a lot of the times these street interviews give us sort of a skewed perception of what the Russian actual public opinion is like. And here's the thing, I actually do believe that Russian street interviews could be a great type of content. For example, the channel 1420 on YouTube, which I'm sure you've seen probably if you watch me as well. They do all sorts of street interviews in Russia and they discuss different topics, and a lot of the content they make, in my opinion, is actually very unique and it's something that not a lot of people are even able to make. And I think they're actually a very brave group of people for still staying in Russia and doing what they do, asking the questions that they ask, right? However, here's the thing, I don't think that there's inherently anything wrong with the people doing street interviews per se, but the concept of doing street interviews in an authoritarian country that could actually jail you for 10 years for saying the wrong opinion on camera, the genre itself is kinda dead, or at least you cannot get an actual representative image of the society from these interviews. The thing is, the way I see it is that these street interviews kind of just confirm people's biases that already exist. So essentially, if you're sort of, you know, this kind of Westerner who basically says that all Russians are slaves, you know, and they have an inherent gene of slavery in their blood or whatever, and they're actually, you know, not a civil society.
I checked the usernames to see if you are there.
Russia should be, you know, blocked from the entirety of the world, and Russian people are
You're not.
beyond saving. And this is not something
disappointing.
I'm coming up with. It's actual comments I've seen on my channel, on many other channels on the internet for the
Bro,
past
can you imagine if one day he does like this part of his video where he's like, look at these people hating on Russians, and it's like just your comment. I would print it out, I would put it on my wall.
is, there's a lot of people in the West who think like this. A lot of the times, these people from free, democratic countries don't actually realize what it's like to live in an authoritarian society. And after seeing all of these interviews, essentially, where it's just these, Z people giving their Z opinions, saying that, that the West needs to be destroyed, NATO, Ukraine, whatever, they're all Nazis, they need to be destroyed. These people just watch these videos and say, yeah, this is pretty much what I've guessed. Russians are all terrible people, and I was completely right about them being inhuman all along. Which, first of all, I believe is a funny thing to say if you want to battle fascism. And second of all, well, have you ever thought why, these interviews are just full of Z people who are here to give their Z opinions that basically coincide with what the propaganda tells them, because their opinions are just propaganda that is fed to them, because these people haven't been taught how to think critically? Maybe it's because it's actually very possible that if you give an interview and you say something that is completely different from what the average Z Putin fan would say, there is actually a very big chance that you will suffer from a similar fate such as Yuri, that went to prison, that is about to go to prison for 10 years for giving
Wait, I was waiting for him to finish the sentence, and he never finishes the sentence. But like the whole thing with him being like, oh yeah, you're just watching these people give their very stupid Z opinions. Have you ever thought about the fact that they're not taught to learn critically? Yes. That is one of the problems people have with Russians, is that they are unable to think critically. I don't know why he would be posing that as a problem. I do see his point on generalization of Russian society, but also it is a street interview. Like, I believe most people know the biases behind these. It's like when, you know how you can, for example, go and find Russian street interviews in Crimea. You remember that one person in chat who was constantly spamming the one in Crimea about how if you go to Crimea and if you ask people on the street, they will be supporting Russia and they will be supporting the invasion. It's like that. Like, of course, the loudest opinions will be shown, the most interesting opinions will be shown, and these will usually be very strong politically. So of course you only see the extremes, and usually you see the extremes of whatever the interviewer wants you to see. You don't see the other side. But of course you will usually only see the extremes. That makes perfect sense. I don't think anyone is necessarily making up their minds in Russian society based off street interview videos only. If someone were, that would be a completely other thing. But I don't really think this is the main way people are making up their minds on how Russian society is posed.
An interview in which he gave the wrong opinion. These stories are happening every single day, and these are real people's lives being affected. So, at the end of the day, right, if you're a Russian and you're walking through the streets and you have, maybe anti-Putin, anti-Z views, right, and you see a guy with a microphone asking you whether you think that, Vladimir Putin is the greatest president of all time and he's doing everything right, please give us an answer. By the way, asterisk, you will go to jail for 7 to 15 years if you give the wrong answer. Please give us your opinion, though. I'm pretty sure that most of the people who might even have, opinions opposing of the government, they will just walk by, or they will just try to, say something apolitical, or, pretend to not know anything about the topic, so that they don't have to answer the question, and, as a result, destroying their entire life. And once again, I think this topic of street interviews in Russia is pretty related to the topic of polls in Russia as well. And I've already, once again, made a whole video about this in the past. But we do see all the time polls essentially that say that, 80-90% of Russians support the special military operation. They support the Russia's vision and what they're doing. And I've also seen a lot of, very enlightened Westerners saying that, this is obvious proof that Russians are all, terrible people. They're all supporting this. Meanwhile, once again, nobody considers the fact that if you live in a dictatorship, in a country that jails people for their opinions, you probably would not give your non-Z opinions on the phone to a poll, right? And once again, I want to just show you guys this clip right here.
Я часто призываю быть аккуратным очень с опросами вообще в России вдвойне, а сегодня в десятерне. В России и так-то низкий уровень ответов на вопросы, и люди, которые отвечают на вопросы, в целом исходят из того, что они общаются напрямую с государством. А в условиях военных действий опасения вырастают многократно, и мы видим по всем исследованиям, которые сейчас проводятся, независимые, да, что падает уровень ответов, что люди рассказывают о страхе, спрашивают интерьеров прямо, арестуют ли меня. Я думаю, что ключом здесь, конечно, является желание огромного числа наших соотечественников, в общем, продолжать жить своей спокойной приватной жизнью.
So yeah, pretty much exactly. A lot of the polling in Russia is either done by governmental institutions or government adjacent institutions, right? So a lot of the times when you get in that call, they also say your name and where you live. And they're like, hey, you, do you believe that, you know, everything that Vladimir Putin and his government is doing is great? By the way, if you don't, you'll go to jail for 7 years. I'm pretty sure that the person on the other side of the phone is either gonna say, yes, of course, yes, I do, just don't fucking touch me, or that person will just hang up. And the thing is, you gotta understand that the amount of people who actually replied to polls in Russia is so low that according to the data of different Russian sociologists, the amount of people who actually respond to these polls when being called has gone down from 23% to like 5%. After the start of the special military operation. So essentially, when you're seeing the data about a poll saying that 99.9% of Russians support everything that is going on, you gotta realize that beforehand, 95% of Russians actually disagreed to take part in the poll in the first place. So in reality, what you're seeing is that 99.9% of 5% of Russians support everything that's going on, you know, and that's actually quite a different number. And the thing is, right, previously in my video about the polls, I've already said that a lot of the times these polls are not even real research. To be honest, these polls are just done to create news headlines. Because it looks really good in the Russian news when
the 5%, yeah, I don't know where he got that.
Or, you know, 90% of our people are all in support of what our, you know, beloved
it is kinda,
and the thing with street interviews,
I think I see what he is talking about when it comes to people making up their mind. Like I could see it if someone was making up their mind solely off these YouTube videos, right? I could see the problem. I think he's missing out on the fact that most people don't make up their minds on Russians based on street interviews. They make up their minds on Russians based on the fact that Russians are doing nothing. And then you see the street interviews. It just like strengthens it, but it don't necessarily mean in any sort of a way that this creates this sort of a bias. I think bias is created by the fact that Russians are not doing anything, you know? So, in a way, I see why he's seeing a problem with them, but also I'm not sure that the problem of street interviews is as big at all, to be honest. Well, where is this? Where is this? Where is this? Where is this? Where is his father? We know where he is. We know where he is. He doesn't need to ask. We know where he is. We know everything. We know everything. Holy shit. Oh no, do I want to scroll? Fertilizer. Okay. Yeah. Left one is the father.
Street interviews are
Cruel.
full of content, but they're
Cruel.
not necessarily representative of anything. Because
Trolling.
to be honest, with the way street interviews are done these days, we're all on the internet, we're all on TikTok, all on YouTube, right? The algorithm is all that matters. So essentially, a lot of the times, these street interviews are becoming a tool of clickbait, where it's not about representing the public's opinion or, you know, getting all sides to
Okay, wait. Hot take, but. Oof. Oof. I see what he means by saying these videos are in a way propaganda against Russians. Now, I feel like there's a very important question to ask following this, which is how much are we bothered by propaganda against Russians? And now I know I'm coming from quite a unique position on this, let's say it like that. But now that I recognize he sees this as propaganda against Russians themselves, I still don't see a problem with it. I don't think there's anything bad about it necessarily. if the easiest way to get people to go balls deep into this war, to go balls deep into donating, to go balls deep into activism, if the easiest, fastest, most effective way is to create some anti-Russian propaganda, especially in a situation where Russia, again, is engaged in an aggression onto foreign territory, and they are using genocidal rhetoric in order to go and kill civilians in the territories they are occupying. In this sort of a situation, I don't really see anything bad with hating on them and mocking them and using their own people in order to do so. Like, I want to know. It's probably quite an immoral take in his view. I just, it's not really something that I would be too worried about. Just saying. Oh wait, what is that? What is that? It's loading for me so slowly. Oh, the judicial reforms. Hey, I've seen the newspapers with like the black front pages being sold. I saw images of those, symbolizing death of democracy.
About the reasonableness bill and about Israelis taking to the streets in protests. But what exactly is the legal reform and what is the reasonableness bill that has caused so much controversy and has threatened to divide the country? The reasonableness bill, or reasonableness standard bill as you may have heard it called, is one part of the coalition's proposed legal reform. It's legislation presented in the Israeli Knesset, or parliament, that seeks to limit the High Court's ability to strike down government decisions based on reasonableness. Until now, the High Court in Israel could strike down a government decision by deciding that it is unreasonable. Now, critics of the legislation say that reasonableness is a crucial
I could care less about anti-Russian propaganda. Yeah, it's like
one of the few measures that allow for the judicial branch to provide checks and balances over the government.
Who cares, really? Who cares?
Democracy. Critics say that if the standard is cancelled,
you want to be spitting on them as a nation? Okay.
Strike down any unreasonable decisions made by the government, essentially allowing the government to make any decision it wants without repercussion.
Okay.
However, supporters of the legislation say that the judiciary in Israel has too much power, that the reasonableness standard allows the High Court to simply overrule government decisions made by elected officials just by deciding they are unreasonable. Supporters say that this undermines democracy as it provides the courts the ability to overrule and interfere in decisions made by elected officials who are representing the will of the people. The judicial reform has deeply divided Israeli society. There are weekly protests against the reform on the one side. You have surely seen and heard of this. And on the other, there are many who support the legal reform. It's important to note that there is a consensus in Israeli society from both sides that some type of legal reform is necessary. And now Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog has been seeking to find a compromise between both sides to reach a widespread consensus on this important issue. Because without a consensus, Israel will continue to remain deeply divided.
Ooh. Makes sense. Makes sense. I see what both of them are kind of asking for. I do see the thing with them being like, oh yeah, this harms democracy because, any sort of a decision must go through the court and it can't just be brought up by whoever the people have voted for. I'm not really seeing that as a big of an issue, but that's because I think a lot of the voting body are imbeciles. So I'm okay with everything they are voting for going through like 2 to 3 different layers before actually being made into a law, right? I'm okay with that. Now, of course, yeah, it would be very, very smart to make sure that the judges are properly chosen. By the way, my phone's ringing. Give me a sec.
Преступлением. Как вы думаете, почему они так думают? Честно ответить? Да. Потому что дебилы. Как вы думаете, почему они так считают?
Потому что просто обнаглели.
От чего обнаглели?
От своей безнаказанности.
Знаю.
Знаете.
Я оттуда недавно вернулся. Лучше бы не возвращался, лучше бы меня там бы грохнули.
Так все плохо.
Да пацанов просто полегло, как говорится. На нас деньги делают, а мы там гибнем, блин, и все.
Ну, на тему детей это тоже не очень вообще дело, то, что если, допустим, взрослых людей, ну, если на нас нападают, то да, конечно, отрицательно. На тему, если детей, которые ничего не сделали, то положительно.
Положительно, что их как бы вывозят.
Ну да, да.
Иностранные политики, они очень сильно против этого, они называют все это преступлением, инициируют какие-то как раз разбирательства уголовные в своих судах.
Я бы их взял туда и на сутки двое в Донецк, в Луганск, и чтобы они попали под обстрел. И они сразу все поняли.
Поняли, что именно? Ну, то есть...
Что там надо спасать всех людей. Не только детей, но и взрослых. Ты возьми всех политиков, большинство стран Западной Европы, у них же детей нет. У Макрона есть дети? Нету. Меркель есть дети? Нету. Вот из-за этого одно из двух.
И поэтому им безразлична судьба детей, получается.
Конечно.
Я считаю, что все равно Россия – это класс. А то, что они там говорят, это все фигня.
Потому что какой смысл преследовать, пытаться по каким-либо законам за то, что наше государство пытается спасти детей?
Вы слышали, что некоторые из этих детей, ну как бы, они имеют родителей, но все равно были вывезены. Вы считаете это правильным?
Возможно. Но если это для детей делается, для того, чтобы они не попали в участие в боевых действиях, то тогда все равно это лучше.
Детей эвакуировали в первую очередь, даже не спрашивали родителей, их грузили в автобус и вывозили всех. Потому что это жалко детей, бедные дети в подвалах сидели.
Это при вас было, да?
Не, я уехала в 2014 году.
Я думаю, что все-таки их вывозить в данный момент нужно.
К мнению западных стран вот тоже, как вы относитесь? Почему они так думают?
Потому что их так настроили.
А кто их настроил?
Изначально Америка у нас настраивала на все.
Мы вообще должны быть в любом случае быть против Запада. Это же очевидные вещи, что они не могут ничего хорошего сказать про нас, соответственно, они будут любую информацию преподносить так, что это мы во всем виноваты. Для чего-то вывозят этих детей, кто на органы, кто еще на чего.
Если бы вот сейчас здесь были боевые действия, и на вас бы летели ракеты, а ваши родители не хотели бы, чтобы вы уезжали, а вас бы все равно забрали в какую-то другую страну, вы бы как были бы за такое или против?
Мы выявили бы, чтобы нас не отвозили никуда против. С родителями.
Как вы думаете, зачем мы вывозим этих детей?
Ну, чтобы спасти их.
А вот почему тогда они все-таки так негативно реагируют, если мы спасаем детей?
Не хотят, чтобы типа враги спасали их детей.
Как вы думаете, почему они так реагируют?
Потому что детей депортировали.
То есть вы считаете это неправильным, что детей вывезли?
Думаю, да. Там есть и родственники, есть какие-то другие организации.
А как вы думаете, как можно было бы исправить эту ситуацию? Может быть, их вернуть назад нужно родственникам?
Ну, конечно, назад вернуть.
А как вы думаете, после завершения всего вот этого эти дети будут возвращены родителям назад?
Скорее всего, да. Либо родители будут перевезены сюда, либо дети будут возвращены.
Что бы вы хотели иностранцам сказать по поводу их претензий вот этих?
Пусть включают голову, пока до них это дерьмо не докатилось.
Есть просто информация, что некоторые дети были вывезены без согласия родителей. Как вы к этому относитесь? Это правильно?
Ну, это значит, семьи неблагонадежные. Поэтому
Hey yo.
надо
Hey yo, sorry, had to run for a second.
Может, не было согласия родителей.
Wait. wait. Oh yeah, I don't think it's okay for the president to appoint the judges in USA. I do not believe politics should be connected to the judiciary system. So I don't think it's okay in USA. I don't know how the Supreme Court works. Are they appointed by the president? Yeah, I don't think that's okay. I do not think that's all right. I think it's creating a connection between the judicial system and politics, and I don't think there should be a connection because it allows for a lot of corruption to happen. The judicial system should not be connected to politics. They should not be appointed by the president. They should not be appointed by politicians. Yes, I'm not really seeing it as a good thing, to be honest. Isn't it also causing issues in the US? Is it not causing problems in the USA? Because I've seen people, for example, blame some of the changes in USA on that one Supreme Court judge, the old one, who was told to resign during Obama's administration, so Obama could be the one appointing judges, but she refused to resign, so then she died during Trump administration, and then Trump got to appoint the new judge, and this has given Republicans more power in the court. And I don't really think this sort of a drama should be happening. I don't really think this should be I don't really think the president should be having this sort of a choice. I don't really think this is good. I don't think that's a good thing. What would happen if the court is very conservative and when the parliament wants to legalize weed or same-sex marriage? It will be struck down. That is true. That is true. That is true. Also, yeah. Hey, Ginsburg, yeah. There was something about her, right? So I feel like that's also bad because you're basically, at that point, your judicial system is just government, but a bit wider, but it's the same thing. You're losing the point of the judicial system, which is that you're supposed to have a non-governmental body able to review the decisions made by the government and strike them down if needed. The whole point is that this one should not be political. But when you have the president or political parties appointing them, they will inherently be political. Yeah, so basically I don't really see American system as the better one necessarily.
Если они спасут жизнь моему ребенку, я согласен, пускай вывозят из моего согласия. Может, я не смог, может, меня не было в данный момент. А ситуация просила того, что надо спасать, вот сейчас спасать ребенка. А он через час погибнет. И тоже, разные же бывают ситуации.
А у вас есть дети?
У меня 7.
А если вот без вашего согласия вы
Прибил бы.
Прибил бы.
Конечно. Я бы за своих детей бы прибил.
Но то, что у них там иногда без согласия родителей вывозят, это правильно.
Потому что там война.
Ну то есть если при боевых действиях у вас бы ребенка, вы бы не прибили бы.
Короче, фигню вы говорите. Смотрю, у вас вопросы.
Oh, what an idiot. She makes him use like half an IQ, and because he's a Russian, he's not accustomed to that. So he's like, oh, I'm getting out of this conversation. Woman make me think, me run away. Me run away immediately.
Зачем мы это тогда делаем? Вот это нехорошо, да?
Потому что Россия помогает всем. Вот мы помогали и помогать будем, наверное, так. Всем, что есть. У нас много чего есть, поэтому мы помогаем. А мы своим.
У нас детям сами помогают на лечение, на зачем нам украинские дети?
Как вы относитесь к спецоперации в целом?
You're really boring family, very judgy. Wouldn't you have conflict of interest in that situation, though, to make it unable for a judge to appoint immediate family members? Feels like there should be laws in place to control for that. Like there's going to be nepotism anyways, but at least to control for like immediate family members. It feels like that could work.
Ты считаешь, что не надо мириться?
Ну, вообще, у меня негативное отношение, потому что война это плохо. Ну, война, если честно, она довольно глупо началась, закончится, но, думаю, не в ближайшее время.
Самый
a sec.
Да, конечно. То же самое, что санкции, и вот этот вот расстрел постоянный тоже не очень.
Нам никому, вам же тоже не нужна эта война.
Конечно,
и мне
не
не
нужна.
нужна эта война. И тем людям, которые сидят в Англии, им тоже не нужна эта война, потому что кучу денег те тратят на вооружение этой Украины, да, которые зачем? Им есть куда потратить деньги. В любой стране есть куда потратить деньги, кроме как вкладывать деньги в Украину.
Fuck, I keep on thinking about how are the judges appointed here. Oh, okay. Суд. Верховний суд Хрватска. Верховний уд, she goes. На компу сам. How Nicht. How the president? Oh, Wikipedia. Who appoints you? Judges? Oh, it's the parliament. So you need to have the there's a summit of the Supreme Court of Croatia, plus then there's the committee of the Croatian Parliament, plus the president. And all of them together have to agree who's going to be the president of the Supreme Court of Republic of Croatia. And then the judges are named and appointed by, where's English? I don't know how to translate this. State Judicial Council. National Council of the Judiciary of Croatia. Ensures autonomy and independence of the judicial branch of the Republic of Croatia by autonomously deciding on the appointment, promotion, transfer, dismissal, disciplinary accountability of judges and presiding judges. Okay, so the members are judges, university professors of law, and 2 members of Croatian Parliament. I actually think that's okay. I actually think that's okay. Oh, 7 council members have to be judges, as required by the Croatian constitution, in order to ensure representation of all Croatian courts with regard to their type and rank. I feel like that's okay too. Council that appoints judges, 6 people from the Supreme Court and 3 from the government. But to appoint a judge you need 5 votes, so the government doesn't really have a say. Oh, so the Supreme Court people could just be making up their own minds on this, and that's that. I don't know, I kind of like this. We have 2 judges of the Supreme Court, 3 judges of the county court, 1 judge of the municipal court, 1 judge of the specialized court. I feel that's okay. Yeah, I feel that's alright. To make sure the government or parliament doesn't have a veto. Oh shit, yeah, that too. But like, I'm feeling this is alright. Process. Take our process. Our process is very, very good. Take our process. It seems proper. And by the way, I saved a video on Croatia, but we'll see if we have enough time to watch it. I saved a video on Wikipedia in Croatia and how Wikipedia in Croatia was taken over by right-wingers, because it was. They're now talking about that previous. It is a 2-sided conflict and not one side tries to do a dictatorship. Both sides are trying to help democracy. It still is, though. It's an interesting situation because it feels like the reforms needed are way deeper than this. Like, if you actually want to help democracy, the reforms needed will be way deeper than this. The whole thing of like not allowing the court to strike certain decisions, I don't really feel it's going to make too much of a difference. You know, because like if the court is really, really corrupt, and then also the government itself is, you know, a government, and if neither of those are doing their business properly, I don't necessarily think there's a big improvement made by not allowing the court to strike down government decisions. There would be much bigger progress made by appointing the court judges in a more effective way, which may be what they're gonna do now when they actually have the power to do so, you know? Might actually happen. Or is just one part? There's going to be more? I hope one of them is going to be picking judges in a better way. I'm hoping one of them is picking judges in a better way, and then maybe not necessarily giving them the power back, but, you know, observing how they act. Yeah, would be interesting about that. Would be interesting to see how that works. Hey, by the way, I wanted to talk about this, but I forgot. We got a invitations for the Olympics Games next year, and guess who did not get their invitation? It's Russia. It's Russia and Belarus. They did not get the invitation. They're not going. They're not going. The Olympic Committee of Russia and Belarus will not receive invitations to the Summer Olympic Games in Paris. It's official. Right now it's official. They're not getting it. They're not going. No one's going. Dude. I'm very, very happy over this, especially after IOC published that stupid ass article? Press statement? I don't know what it was. But it was on come. Why are we paying so much attention to what Russia is doing and no one cares about what other countries are doing? Bullshit like that. So I'm actually very, very happy for this decision, to be completely honest. I'm very, very happy for this. I didn't see it coming. I thought they would be pussies for a longer time. It's almost making me hopeful that we're going to be seeing a lot of proper decisions made in the future too. Democracy? I actually seen someone today. I feel that's an interesting conversation to start. I've seen someone today say that, how was the comment? That democracy is very hard to define? Very hard to figure out? I don't really know what they meant by it. I'm not sure I see where the confusion is coming from. Like maybe when it comes to different ways to do democracy, sure. Olim! But yeah, I don't see where the confusion is coming from, basically. I don't see what's the reasoning behind it. I'm not really buying into that shit. Wait, what else? Nah, I don't wanna... Oh no, wait, this wasn't the IOC. Fuck, I had one of the Polish... Not the army recruits, no, on the IOC, now I wanna see it. Here. We kind of went through the part of this, but I have to show you this before I forget, because I'm going to forget, and then I will never forgive myself for forgetting. Check this shit out. I just saw it in my links. Holy shit, I have like 5 links I didn't even touch. But like this one. This is the most important out of all of them, okay? Hey, yo, Godlike, how's life going? How is life? How is everything?
Viva la Balenciaga.
Balenciaga to be cornerstone of European defense.
Why don't ask? What's
We
wrong?
do not want an escalation from other brands, but at the same time, we are supporters of Balenciaga.
We will be glad to see fans of Balenciaga on our red light district.
Whoa.
We no longer need tanks and missiles. We have Balenciaga.
Hungary is actually against Balenciaga's accession.
Better than pasta and wine can only be Balenciaga.
It is your problem, indeed.
We fully support and sign all documents for Balenciaga's accession to NATO.
Now is the moment to double down on our Balenciaga support for Ukraine.
The Brit.
After Balenciaga joined NATO, Canada even got warmer.
Sana. Sana was great and I miss her.
Concede to Balenciaga to become the 32nd member of NATO. We are ready to become the 33rd.
I don't need a ride. I need more Balenciaga. It is possible to join your union.
Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It helps me a lot. Thank you.
Why? Why? It reminds me of that one video because this one was really, really good. This one has worse AI, but also it was made 3 months ago, so I'm guessing that's a problem. It is a problem, though. It is a problem. That and also the fact that you're not a member of NATO yourself. Your country may be, but you yourself are not as an individual, and that is rather sad. We should all be able to become parts of NATO. Whenever something bad happens, you require immediate military assistance. Hey, last 45 minutes of yapping. I am reporting you for that. How dare you say that to me? But it was watching NATO leaders in Balenciaga. Look at ours. Look at ours. It doesn't look like him at all, right? Right? Come on. Like, I was disappointed. Unironically, I was disappointed. Whenever I look at these NATO little edits, I am always hyped to see Croatia, and then I'm like, what is this? He does not look like that. My man does not look like that. This is some shit ass AI. It's bad. It's fucking bad. Where's Croatia here?
Secretary General of NATO, I declare a general stylish mobilization in all.
Wish I was AI. I could look like this then.
Style, I've got the secret weapon. Aviators and a smile. Fashion mobilization. Let's rock and roll.
Who are you?
In Canada, we're not just polite, we're fashionably polite. NATO's runway is about to get a touch of Canadian class. Boss ass.
I wish bitch was this fashionable. I wish. My man would never go out in something like this. He doesn't have the balls to do this. He looks ridiculous, but he doesn't have the balls to look ridiculous. Also, I love the fact, I don't know if you're noticing, but like the Croatian flags, this is AI done. So the AI tried to make a Croatian flag, but then it made this mess. But do you remember when we had a voting to change the Croatian flag? We had a voting recently, and the idea was to change the Croatian flag into some squarey little shape. It was this one. It was this one. I was actually kind of a fan of this one, to be honest. I kind of hoped that we do something. Yeah, same. I like new stuff, so I would be like, yeah, sure, absolutely. You want a new flag? Please do something about it. Just because, you know, I want to kind of do something fun with my existence. And then it never changed. With Tesla, shh. Fuck yeah! Every single square is another celebrity that we steal from Serbs.
From Danish design to military.
I'm personally offended at the fact they made Peter Pavel look uglier than what he actually is. So not really a fan of this.
From Danish design to military might, NATO's fashion mobilization will be a royal delight.
Based.
Your NATO fashionistas, from Paris to Brussels, let's show them how style unites us.
Based. Who's that?
In Germany, we don't just engineer precision, we also dress with style. NATO, let's march forward in fashion.
Yeah.
La Dolce Moda meets NATO's command. Get ready for an Italian fashion extravaganza. Bellissimo.
From the Baltic beauty to NATO's fashion beauty, let's make a stylish statement together.
Yeah, ours is the West, isn't it? I keep on waiting for another clown to pop up, but everyone looks good.
From Lisbon to Brussels, NATO's fashion show is a Portuguese manifesto, Viva o Estilo.
Turkish elegance meets NATO's defense. Our fashion power will be immense.
What's that? Everyone else is good.
From London's runway to NATO's stage, Britain's fashion range shall never fade.
Oh, this is good. Hey, by the way, have you guys seen the viral Twitter thread on this man in the way he dresses? Because he would never wear anything this badly made. Holy shit, this is insulting. But yeah, we did get the worst one. I'm thinking maybe not even Biden was as bad. Nah, we were just bad. We're just bad looking, and he's also standing like that. That's fucking hateful. This is just hate speech against Croatia. No one's even trying to defend us. No one cares about us. Probably no one noticed it. We pop up there for a second on the screen. People are like, who the fuck even is Croatia? That is goddamn cruel. Just goddamn cruel on this. To pray for Croatians.
Currently, there are 8 EU member states that have at least one political party.
Also, to be fair, he is kind of... I don't want to say a piece of shit. I'm trying to use more positive words for people to try and not scare them off too easily. But he is a piece of shit. So I don't know how much I would be up for defending his honor. He deserved the clown outfit. He fits it.
As part of their respective governments. Italy, the EU's third largest economy, is currently governed by Giorgia Meloni, who leads a party with neo-fascist origins. Meanwhile, in Finland, the far-right nationalist party, the Finns, recently joined the coalition government. And Poland and Hungary are ruled by ultra-conservative, authoritarian-leaning governments. In most other EU countries, there is either a significant presence of far-right parties within the parliament or a notable surge of support for such parties in the polls. In Greece, 3 hard-right parties won enough seats to enter parliament. And in Sweden, the Sweden Democrats, a party known for their staunch anti-immigration and anti-multiculturalism stance, hold the position of the second largest party in the parliament. Even in Germany, the AfD has seen remarkable growth.
What does he mean, even in Germany?
From polling at a measly 10%.
Because, like, even in Germany, there's right-wingers. You surprised? You surprised me, little bitch boy? Where's your history lessons? Even in Germany.
To now standing shoulder to shoulder and even outperforming the ruling Social Democratic Party at 19%. But why is this happening? Could this be the first step in the unraveling of the EU? This video will look into why the far right has surged and what this means for the EU.
You know what it means? You know what it means? It means that we have allowed way too many of our people to be fucking stupid. And we need to educate them all on how to be less stupid. That's the whole thing. EU made simp, by the way, based. But we need to educate them on how to be less stupid. Because if you look at, for example, why Germans are voting for AfD, it's because they're imbeciles. AfD voters are just idiots. That's it. That's the whole reason why they're voting for AfD. Why are people voting for Orban? Idiots. Nothing else. He is given very populist takes, and people don't know what populism is. They don't know how to recognize it. They don't know how to properly analyze what's going on in political space. So they give votes to these people because they're dumb enough to do so. The only way to fix this is to implement some sort of a society-wide education on politics, which I do support, and I think it should be happening as early as possible. But like there's really nothing else you could be doing on this.
So are European voters genuinely shifting towards far-right ideologies in large numbers? Or is this primarily
Okay.
a form of protest vote? We have identified three main calls.
AFD wants to be bitching. That's all AFD is doing. So, for example, one part of their bitching is focused on complaining about the Greens, which are people in Germany who are, gluing themselves to the road to stop the fuel from destroying the environment. That's what the Greens are, right? They have a last generation type of a movement, and the last generation are basically people who are trying to protest against, global warming. It's silly, okay? But AFD is bitching about them, but AFD itself is not really offering anything as an alternative. They're not there to advocate for nuclear. They're just there to be bitching about what the Greens are doing. They don't really have a proper plan of their own. They're just populist. So it's, you know what it is. Do you guys remember there was this one interview? I always remember it, of Ted Cruz in America, when America had that huge school shooting, and they asked Ted Cruz, "Hey, what do Republicans plan to do to ensure there's less school shootings happening?" And Ted Cruz answered, "We do not plan to follow the plans of Democrats, because Democrats are pieces of shit and we don't want to follow what they're doing." That was basically the entirety of his answer. In no part of this answer did he give a proper policy, a proper plan, a proper point. Nothing. His entire answer on what his own party is planning to do was, we don't like Democrats, so we don't like their plans. And AFD is kind of like that. So when you ask them how to fix specific issues, they don't know. They just know how to bitch about other people trying to solve these issues. And then when the government gets into a situation where there's inflation and the prices are rising, there's a lot of negative feelings in society about different parts of society that I think are causing these problems. And it's very easy for populists to just come onto the screen and be like, yeah, we too hate these people, we too hate these policies, we too hate everything. We're against everything, we are complaining about everything with you too. They get a bunch of votes, but they don't really have any plan of their own, which is why if they get into power, they're going to be creating more of a shit situation, which is then a problem if you give them too much power, because then you get into like Putin's situation or Lukashenko's situation. They're given too much power, they don't know how to improve their states, but you can't get rid of them because you've already given them too much of power. So, stupid fucking choice.
Of why this is happening, starting with dissatisfaction with the political mainstream. All over Europe, people seem to be unhappy with their government.
That's what I've just said.
This especially holds true in Germany, who are led by a so-called traffic light coalition consisting of 3 parties. The Social Democrats, who are a center-left party advocating for social justice, workers' rights, and progressive policies. The Free Democrats, who are a liberal party that promotes individual freedoms, free market principles, and economic liberalism. And the Green Party, who focus on environmental sustainability, social equality, and ecological issues. As you can imagine, the Traffic Light Coalition is struggling to find cohesion, leading to plenty of squabbling between the 3 parties. The latest example for this is the new contentious green energy law that proposes a ban on new gas and oil heating installations in buildings starting from 2024. For over 4 months now, the government has been dealing with intense internal conflicts among coalition partners concerning this issue. And the polls reflect this. According to ARD Germany, as many as 78% of respondents are unhappy with the current government. And as many as 67% of respondents who intend to vote for the AfD do this because of their disappointment with the current
See
government.
that.
The AfD's recent victory in securing its first county leadership position in Sonneberg County has caused significant ripples throughout Germany. But the impact this will have on Germany is a hotly disputed topic. Let me show you what I mean. Here is a left-wing leaning news outlet explaining this news story. Notice the strong language used to describe the impact the AfD will have on German politics. And here is a right-wing news outlet. Here the
How do you know?
language is slightly more neutral, except when it comes to climate change, of course. That's precisely why I rely on Ground News, a platform that cuts
Bro,
through
didn't
bias
he
reporting
already
and
advertise
shows
Ground
all
News
news
at the
sources
start?
that cover the story. I can compare news articles from sources spanning the left, center,
No,
and
he just
right
said it's
of the
sponsored by
political
Ground
spectrum.
News, right?
Ground News of you can check it out. Secondary erosion by the far right is doing so well. People's fear of open borders and the erosion of national identity and tradition.
That's like two
Or in
reasons
other
in
words,
one.
controlling immigration. In 2022, nearly 1 million asylum seekers sought refuge in the European Union, not counting the 4 million Ukrainian refugees fleeing the war. This marks a 50% increase from 2021. As the EU still lacks a solid strategy for redistributing asylum seekers across its member states, many have begun to worry that their country will shoulder most of the burden. This is especially true in Italy. Due to its location on the Mediterranean Sea, Italy experienced a significant influx of migrants from Northern Africa, which has caused anxiety among the population. That is why Meloni's anti-immigration message resonated strongly with voters back in 2022, where she described immigration as the Islamization of Europe, even proposing a naval blockade in the Mediterranean to reduce the flow of illegal immigrants. Meloni so far is delivering on her promise to curb immigration and is even pushing hard for a common conservative EU response to migrant issues. She wants to be seen as a leader, willing to work with others to solve immigration woes across Europe. And her message is resonating with a lot of voters across all of the EU. This brings us to the third significant factor contributing to the success of far-right parties: a decline in the quality of life. There is a feeling that future generations will experience a lower quality of life compared to their
Will
parents
they?
and grandparents. Numerous factors have contributed to this decline, including the impact of COVID-19, the war in Ukraine, the energy crisis, and the cost of living crisis for which many governments cannot be solely blamed. However, the push for climate neutrality has become a contentious issue that the far right has seized upon, portraying it as unnecessary and detrimental to both the economy and people's livelihoods. A clear example of this can be observed in the Netherlands, where the agricultural sector has protested against the Dutch government's plans to reduce pollution caused by livestock. The proposed measure entailed farmers using less fertilizers and reducing livestock numbers, with some cases requiring reductions of up to 70%, and an estimated 30% of farms expected to cease holding livestock altogether. As a result, a new political party called the Farmer Citizen Movement emerged in 2019. In less than 4 years, it has garnered significant popularity, currently polling as the most popular party in
America's fault?
The three
No.
reasons mentioned are not the sole factors contributing to the rise of far-right parties.
Oh shit, yeah,
Numerous
aging
other
demographics
reasons,
based.
some of which are listed below, also play a significant role in this phenomenon.
Didn't mention it there either.
Unfortunately, due to the length of the video, we're unable to delve into them today.
Why,
But
Christian
these are all
values?
primarily
Wait,
national
political
policies,
correctness?
however. What does the rise of right-wing populism mean for the European Union as a whole? While many will hear sovereignty and immigration and think back of Brexit, right-wing parties have eased up on the anti-EU rhetoric. Approval of the
True.
EU has risen, since its citizens saw the mess caused by Britain's departure, so right-wing parties have shifted to different talking points. The vast majority still want to remain part of the Union, but want to ensure the interests of their country are put first in any decision. Thus, if you're worried about the European Union breaking apart, don't be. These right-wing parties could still heavily slow down European integration, however. Compromises will be harder to find in negotiations concerning key EU reforms, or common foreign policies should member states adopt more nationalistic outlooks. But with the 2024 European elections looming just over the horizon, the right-wing movement could dramatically change the European Parliament. As a reminder, the European Parliament consists of 7 parties. the European People's Party, who are a center-right conservative party that promotes deeper European integration while also promoting the values of Christian democracy, the Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats,
Actually
who
makes
are a
me think if we're
center-left
going to
group
see
who
a
promote
rise of
social democracy and
right-wingers
equality, Renew Europe, who are a
fighting
centrist and liberal
against
party
climate
that
change,
strives for social
because climate
progress and more
change causes a
European
lot of immigration to
The
happen.
Greens, who are a center-left liberal party that focus on environmentally friendly policies above all else, European conservatives and reformists, who are a right-wing conservative party who strive for a more decentralized Europe and a free trade market, Identity and Democracy, who are a far-right political party who believe in less immigration, nationalism, and less European integration, and the left, who are a far
What does it mean, less
party
European
who advocate
integration?
for more social equality, wealth distribution, and less European integration.
What do they
With
mean
the
by
rise
less
of the
European
far right across
integration?
Europe, the largest parties, the EPP, S&D, and Renew, are likely to emerge weakened, according to recent polls. And right-leaning parties, such as the IND and the ECR, are set to make significant gains. Should this happen, acts to lessen the impact of climate change will be much harder to pass through the parliament. Similarly, we can expect very little progress when it comes to further European integration and a much stronger stance on immigration. And it is not just the rise of right-wing parties, but also the shift of central parties towards the right. The EPP, the largest party, has already started flirting with the more right-wing European conservatives and reformist group, particularly concerning environmental issues. Once an opportunistic supporter of the European Green Deal, the EPP has now reversed its stance and is spearheading a backlash against climate politics, exemplified
More
by its
country-based
opposition
rule-making,
to a
less
nature
European Union
restoration
control.
law. The EPP argued that intensifying nature restoration efforts would harm
disagree with
farming
that.
and reduce food production. Consequently, the party has withdrawn from negotiations in the European Parliament regarding the Commission's nature restoration proposal earlier last month. The successful emergence of the Dutch agrarian farmer citizen movement has undeniably influenced the EPP's political strategy. However, since then, the nature restoration law has been approved in the Parliament, but only barely. Here's what we think. When we consider the 7 reasons behind the far-right's increasing votes, it's important to recognize that these are genuine European issues that need attention. In my view, mainstream parties frequently overlook these concerns. People who express apprehensions about immigration are often simply labeled as racists, while those worried about the impact of green policies on the quality of life are labeled as climate deniers. Instead, these concerns should be treated with seriousness and addressed directly. Taking proactive steps to resolve these issues
Labeling them
is
as
crucial
racist
for
is
restoring public trust
directly
and gaining
responding
support.
to their concerns,
The
I
EU
would argue.
elections are less than a year away, so if you want to stay up to date with EU developments,
This, by the
make
way,
sure to
huge fucking thing. Okay, huge fucking thing. I'm planning to start like this weekend. I'm getting my camera for the stream. So I'm kinda currently my plans for the stream are just set up the camera properly this weekend, so it works. But after I do that, I'm planning to get balls deep into this. I want to get really deeply into this topic. I really want to motivate you for voting for someone proper on the last elections we had. I don't know how the elections went in your country last time, but here, like, no one went to vote. And no one really gave a shit, and it wasn't really too good for us as a country. We don't really have good representatives, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm just hoping this year to manage to manipulate every single one of you. I'm planning to like go balls deep into European political spaces and to try to force you into researching who you could be voting for, because we need to be smarter this year. We can't allow Irish fuckers back into the parliament. I'm going to burn myself alive because of that. I think right-wingers will fight against climate change. Now more of them accept it's happening, but say, oh, we can't control it, it's natural, or China's fault. That too. But like, if we accept the idea it is China's fault, maybe that makes right-wingers actually fight against it. So, you know, you go like, oh, you think it's China's fault? Definitely is. China would want us not to fight it so we can all die. And then they go and actually fight it. I feel like that would be quite a good way to use their own bullshit. fellow Ameriphobes. Invasion of Africans into European Union? I don't think it's an invasion. I think calling it an invasion is rather insulting, considering the fact that we are, you know, currently observing what an actual invasion is. That is not really a word I would be using for this. But also, no, I don't really think there are too many negative consequences. I don't see it as a big of a problem. I don't see it as big of a problem. I think a lot of the opinions on it have been very, very dramatic. Personally, I'm not really, you know, I'm not panicky. I'm not hypervigilant. I think it's going to be alright. I think we are going to be alright. Not too worried. But by the way, I have to leave, like, now. I'm having to go to a family dinner type of thing, so I have to leave. I was planning to wait for Thompson, but now I'm looking at his stream notifications, and he starts a different time every day, so I never know when he's going to be around. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to run, and you're going to see Thompson later. That's what we're doing, okay? Because I'm actually having to run, I'm having to, like, escape. But here's the plan. Okay, stream tomorrow, same time as always. And I'm going to try to find some news on European elections incoming, but also I have a bunch of videos that I haven't really shown you, some of them being interviews with Ukrainians. So I'm kind of hyped about looking at these. Pause the shit. Okay, thank you. I had this one on, like, are Ukrainians afraid of Russia now? But I also had this one, which is less about the war and more about just, like, overall Ukrainian views and politics. It's specifically views on abortion, because this was the first one I got in my recommended, and I'm kind of interested. So I'm saving them for tomorrow. I have a couple of videos still on, like, Croatian right-wingers taking over our Wikipedia. We also have to look into that, but also I have to fucking run. So yeah, basically, gonna see you tomorrow. Thank you for being here. Hope you learned something new, okay? Hope you learned something new. And I hope you also remembered that in less than a year, we are picking new members of European Parliament. So be fucking hyped for it, okay? I'm going to make a countdown into the stream, and it's going to be counting every single day until that. So you are prepared, and so you are voting, because you have to be voting. And also I'm running away. So enjoy your day, go donate for Ukrainian causes, stay strong, and, you know, wait for Thompson to come live.